I just bought myself my dream project car, a BMW 328i. But there's one massive issue. It's been abandoned for 7 years.
The BMW E36. Easily one of the best shapes BMW has ever made, and for me, a car I've always dreamt of owning. But with the prices of the E36 M3s going through the roof, the next best thing in line is an E36 328i. 2.8 litres, 6 cylinders, and an engine producing 190 horsepower, which in 1998 would have been insanely fast. Even these now, for a good conditioned example, are selling upwards of £8,000. So when I got offered to buy this one for a fraction of the price, I said yes. But there's a catch. It's been off-road and abandoned since 2017 and hasn't been started or driven since. Time has definitely took its toll on this car. Everywhere you look, every panel you see has mould or moss growing from it. I'm just hoping that underneath all of the dirt and mould, this car is savable and the engine still runs.
Here we go. A 1998 BMW E36 328i. This has been a dream car of mine for a long time, but recently these have skyrocketed in price, and for a decent one you're looking minimum £8,000, and for how good these cars are, I can actually understand why. This one is going to need a bit of work though.
And I don't think anyone is going to believe me when I tell you how much I paid for this E36 328i. But at the moment, I don't know what the underneath's like, I don't know how bad the exterior is, and I also don't know if the engine actually starts. So I think it's best if we take a closer look, and I'll let you know how much I paid a little bit later.
There is literally moss and mould growing all over it. I don't actually know what the underneath is like. I'm pretty sure it's going to need some welding, but this is a project that I want to take all the way to a show slash track car. I think we should go club sport with this, full respray in some insane colour. I've got huge plans for this car because I've always wanted to build one. But yeah, we've got, I think these are M5 wheels, and apparently if they're genuine, they're worth quite a bit of money. But as you can see, we've got literally dirt and mould growing out of this car, and the best bit about it is I don't actually know if it runs. With it being sat for 7 years, I didn't want to take the risk of starting it. I don't know what the oil looks like, I don't know what the fuel looks like, so I haven't tried to start it, but I'm hoping I can get it running in this video. All 4 tyres are completely flat. That is why it took so many people to push it onto the driveway. This door doesn't open. The battery is of course completely flat, and great, the battery's in the boot on these and it's flat. Maybe I'll have to crawl through and try and pop it from the inside. Interior is actually, at the minute, the best bit about this car. It doesn't look that worn. The bolsters have only just started to lose a bit of colour. The seats all work. It is of course a 5-speed manual. That is why I wanted one of these so bad in manual, because they're just far better. But yeah, we've got leather seats. This is a sport as well, which is like the one down from the M3. I'll tell you how much at the end of this video I bought this car for. I want people to guess in the comments. But the interior, it hasn't gone mouldy. It's actually in pretty good condition. There's a few bits that I'll probably change, but yeah, the interior is pretty nice. Now the engine. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a M52 engine. It is a inline 6-cylinder 2.8 litre engine, and it produces, I think, about 190 horsepower. It is naturally aspirated, and these, I've been told, are pretty good engines, especially on track. They're very reliable and they rev nice and high, and they're quite pokey. The only problem for me is I have no idea if it actually runs. I've been told it did run when they parked it up but that was 7 years ago. The oil is probably really slushy and horrible. I'm not sure if or what the fuel lock's like in it, and I didn't want to risk trying to turn it on and damaging the inside of this engine. So I think the first job to do is actually see if it runs. Before we do anything bodywork, I want to know if the engine runs. If it does, then I can rest easy at night and we can carry on with the rest of the car. If it doesn't, well, we're going to have to fix it. So I think first job is check the spark plugs, see what condition they look like. Let's crack on.
So if you guys are excited to have a proper build back on the channel, then hit that subscribe button below, because this is going to be epic once it's finished. But we've got a long way to go. So I'm going to take the engine cover off, which will reveal all 6 of the coil packs. Now I can take those out, which will then give me access to be able to get the spark plugs out. And I've just got to hope that these aren't in really poor condition.
Oh. Well, I was expecting that to be a lot worse, and they are NGK spark plugs as well. Yeah, I was expecting them to be, I don't know why I was expecting them to, I was expecting them to be wet for one, because I'm assuming this is going to need a rocker cover gasket. I'm going to be certain that it's turned from rubber to plastic, but they're in pretty good condition. Let me check the rest, and then we'll get the jump pack on here and try and turn it over. Of course, I'm going to check the oil beforehand, but as spark plugs go, they're not bad.
So I'm going to remove the other 5 of them, and luckily they were all pretty much in the same condition, which is really good to know. It means that this engine was pretty healthy when it last ran.
They are not in the best condition, but they're definitely far from the worst I've seen. I don't see why they wouldn't allow the car to start. So I'm going to get all 6 of them back in the car. The coils, you can't really tell if a coil's gone bad, but they're not covered in oil at any of the ends. I was expecting things to be a lot worse, so I'm going to get all of them back in the car, and then I'm going to check the oil, and then maybe I need to just go and grab a jerry can and put some decent fuel in it, because again, it's been sat for 7 years, so I don't want to run it on fuel that's just been sat doing nothing. So we'll get these back in, check the oil. As long as the oil's okay, we'll put some fuel in it, and I'm hoping we can start it.
So back in go the 6 spark plugs, and of course the 6 coils. Then I can check the oil, which to my surprise wasn't as bad as I thought. Although it's not great, it's definitely not awful. Now I'm going to put some fuel in the car, as I don't really want to run it on the 7-year-old fuel that's left sitting in the tank. And once that's done, I think I can try and start it.
I'm actually excited, man. If this starts, that's it, the project is underway. Right, let's give it a go. You ready? Nothing. Try boost again. We've now got no power. Whatsoever. Try it again. Nothing. Okay, I think with this one we're probably better. It's quite speed. I think we're probably better trying to jump it. Oh my god, the boot opens now. Wait. That's definitely not been opened in a while. Oh my god, look at all of that. I mean, a good thing is it's not rusty along here. Look at the BMW official tools. Check that out. Right. I think the best bet is to try and jump the battery direct. I'm so thankful that that's just opened. What in the world? Oh, these are proper old school bits and bobs.
On this car and a lot of other BMW makes and models, the batteries are located in the boot for weight distribution. So now I've got the boot open, I can take off this plastic cover which will give me access to the battery. And once I've got access to the battery, I'm hoping I can jump it directly from the power source.
Right, there we go, we have got access to the battery. So, I think we're going to have a much better chance if I jump it off this. But for some reason, here we go, we're alive. We're alive. Have we got power? We've got power, are you ready? It's close. It's turning over. That was close. Come on. Let's try again. Come on, BMW, come on. Oh, it's getting close. It's getting really close. It's gonna go. I've got a feeling it's gonna go. Come on. That was really close again.
But no matter how many times I tried, it just didn't want to start. It's good news that the engine's turning over, but I need to find out why it's not actually starting.
This one. This one. Don't want to go, does it? I can't tell if that's spark or not. I mean, good thing is the engine is turning over, like, it is turning over. Why is that not starting? Why is that not starting?
Still no luck. The engine just didn't want to fire, so I think to give it its biggest chance of starting, I should go and grab 6 new spark plugs and also grab a brand new battery, because that is probably not helping the fact that the battery is completely dead.
1 new battery, 6 brand spanking new spark plugs. I think this is going to give us the best chance at starting this engine. So I'm going to quickly switch out all 6 spark plugs, install the battery, and I'm going to try again.
Luckily, spark plugs for this car are really cheap, so it just makes sense to change them anyway. At least with that, I can tick the spark off the list. The same with the battery. They're not too expensive for these cars, and it's another thing that this car's going to need to get back on the road. So by doing this, I'm hopefully giving the car a bigger chance at starting and replacing all the old broken parts. And now the spark plugs are in, I can take out the old battery, replace it with the new one, and I think we're good to try again.
1 new battery is fitted and 6 new spark plugs are installed. Let's see if it's got power on its own. If there's any point where it's going to fire, it's going to be now. We've got power. Ready? Please, come on. It fired and then stopped. Come on. Just don't want to go, does it?
And attempt after attempt, the car was doing the exact same thing. But then, I noticed something.
I've got a theory. If you look at the dashboard, the ignition's on and it's reading that it's got no fuel at all. If I turn the ignition off and you listen behind my head, I can't hear a fuel pump. I can't hear a fuel pump at all. I wonder whether the fuel pump's knackered. Let's test it. I think this is the first time this door's been open in 7 years. You ready? Oh, did you hear that? Okay, we now have the plugs for the fuel pump. I'm assuming one of them is a constant voltage and the other comes to life when you actually turn the ignition on. So I'm going to get the ignition on, and I've got my multimeter, and all I want to know is if we have power going to these plugs. If we have, then we've got a problem with the fuel pump. So on that one we have 11.1 volts going to the fuel pump, and on this one we have absolutely nothing. So I think if I was to turn the key, there we go. Okay, so good news, the wires going to the fuel pump are working. So next job, remove the fuel pump and probably just get another one, because clearly that isn't working. If there's power going to it and I still can't hear it priming, it's most likely seized just from old age, sitting in there and doing nothing. So hammer, flathead screwdriver, get the fuel pump out.
To remove the fuel pump, first I've got to take off the fuel line. This is the line that sends the fuel to the fuel rail. Now I can knock the locking seal anti-clockwise to loosen it, and I should be able to pull the fuel pump out.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a fuel pump.
And I think it's safe to say it doesn't look in the best condition.
We have ordered an entire new fuel pump and assembly. The reason I wanted a new assembly is because that clearly isn't working. It's all gone corroded, and I think it just makes sense to replace the entire thing. The only problem with that is it won't arrive until Friday. Today is Wednesday. So I guess we're not going to find out if this car is going to run until a little bit later in the video. But for now, I think this car is well overdue a proper good wash.
I'm about to wash off 7 years of mould build-up and dirt, so I'm going to start by going around the wheels with G101 and of course the rest of the car to hopefully break down all of the mould. These wheels are in desperate need of a refurbishment, and of course we've got to get 4 brand new tyres, but I thought I might as well wash them while I'm here.
I personally am a massive fan of how these wheels actually look. These are going to need a refurb, and of course we're going to need 4 brand new tyres. The back ones actually aren't too bad, but the front ones unfortunately have not passed the test of time. They've gone kind of this oxidised, weird kind of look, so we'll get those refurbed. But before I give the car a complete pressure wash, there's a couple of things I want to take off so we can clean behind them. The first one is the rear BMW badge, the second is the front BMW badge, and then I'm going to be taking the original number plates off. 1, so I can clean behind them, and 2, because I'm going to be keeping this car and it is a full build, I've got a little something special to go on. Let me strip the badges off, get the number plates off, and then we can start with the pressure washing.
So I can take off the 2 screws that hold in the front number plate, and of course the 2 screws that held in the back number plate. Now it's onto the badges. First the back, then the front, and now I'm going to snow foam the entire car to hopefully break down as much of that gunk, mould and dirt as possible. I think this one is going to be the most satisfying restoration / wash I've ever done. And now I've let that snow foam set for 5 to 10 minutes, it's time to blast this car off. So I'm going to start by opening the boot and blasting off all them years of build-up of leaves, dirt and mould, which was seriously satisfying to do. Now that's done, I can move on to the rest of the car, and all I'm trying to do is get it as clean as possible. I feel like no matter how much I wash this car, I'm always going to get dirt and mould leaking out of all of the little seams. But for now, the car's looking amazing.
Check out how good this car looks. It still hasn't sunk in that I literally own what is one of my dream cars. It looks way better with just what is only a quick pressure wash. It's actually looking like it's loved again instead of completely abandoned. I can't believe the difference in just giving it a pressure wash. The next job is now to go around with a detail brush and of course do a hand contact wash just to get it looking the best we can. This window is also letting a bit of water in as well, so that's something we're going to have to get sorted. But for now, they're not massively important. I want to get it looking good, and then hopefully the fuel pump arrives and we can start the car. Right, let's carry on.
So I'm going to go around all the nooks and crevices of this car with some G101 and a detailing brush, bearing in mind that I'm not too bothered about the paintwork on this car because it's going to be getting an entire full respray in a complete different colour. And once that's done, I can now go around the car with a hand wash to try and get as much of that harsh dirt off as possible that the pressure washer missed. And I can't actually believe how good this car has turned out. It already looks 10 years newer.
It is already looking 100 times better. I've noticed a few imperfections with having done a full wash on this car, like the two rear windows. We're gonna need a new driver's side front wing. This has started to bubble and chip, and I have no idea what has gone on down here, but we might as well get a driver's side and a passenger side. But looking round the car, I can't actually see a dint on it. If someone's noticed a dint so far, then let me know, but I actually can't even see one single dint on this car. It's actually in really good condition. And what we've got going on the front to replace the old horrible looking badge is a brand spanking new OEM BMW badge. So I'm going to install this how the other one was installed, which is a little dab of silicone on the badge itself, and then these push down into place. I mean, that's not even centered, is it? That don't even look like it's... Is this even for this car? That don't look right. Does it? It's completely off centre. Well, I'll have to sort that one at a later date. I have no reason why. That was literally from BMW, and for some reason the badge, it must have been manufactured wrong. Look from here, it's like it's dead loose, and then like it's not even centered. Right, hopefully the back one works. I'm not having much luck with this. Why does that not fit now? That looks better for now, at least. I'm gonna have to see if I can maybe order 2 more badges, because they don't really seem to fit properly. But apart from obviously getting this fully resprayed, the exterior is as good as I want it to be, except one thing. So like I've said, this has been a dream car of mine for a long time, and you already know that any car that I decide to keep always gets a private registration. So I've decided to go for J3 UHH. The reason I've gone for UHH is because of the condition that I got the car in. So this is the plate that's going to be going on this car. I'll install them for now, but of course everything is going to have to come off when we get the car fully resprayed. But for now, I think that was a pretty good suiting plate for this car. The J3 to match the plate on my Civic, and because the car was pretty disgusting. So, let's get them on.
And as always, a massive thank you to Reg Plate King for always providing me with the number plates. If you want to get a set of these for yourself, you can use the discount code in the description to get yourself money off.
Okay, exterior done, badges done, number plates done. Interior isn't too bad at all. There's one thing left to do before we fit the fuel pump and try and sort this car, and that is the engine bay.
And if the exterior of this car hasn't been cleaned in 7 years, then I guarantee the engine bay is probably double that. So first, I'm going to blast off all the exterior bits with the pressure wash, and then I'm going to go around the engine bay with some G101, a light snow foam, and then tattle it with the detail brush, just to agitate all of that old nasty dirt. This should come up really, really good. And after I've done that, I can then blast it off with the pressure washer, of course making sure to not go too close to any electrical components, and the engine bay is looking brand spanking new. Last job to do for this engine bay slash bonnet is to change these old broken bonnet struts. You've probably seen me holding the bonnet up with the brush. Now I've got 2 new struts. I can take the old ones off and replace them with the nice shiny new ones, just so the bonnet is held up on its own weight. The left hand side is a little bit more tricky than the right hand side because there's a wiring harness attached to the strut, but once you unclip that, you can take the old strut off, put the new one on, and that is a job well done.
Safe to say, I think they have definitely seen better days. They were doing absolutely nothing at all. And now we've got 2 working bonnet struts.
Now I've just got to wait until tomorrow when the fuel pump arrives, install it, and keep my fingers crossed that this engine starts.
And as if by magic, this is the new fuel pump. I'm hoping this is the correct one and this does work. There is a couple of little differences from this one compared to the old one. The actual pump does look a little bit smaller than the old one, so I do hope that this works, but I guess there's only one thing we can do, and that is try. At least if this isn't the right pump and we plug it in and it makes a noise, we know that that one is definitely faulty, and all I've got to do is try and find a direct replacement. But this one is the one that came through for the registration of this car, so I guess we just cross our fingers and hope that this is the fix to our problem. Let's get it installed.
So I'm going to drop the new fuel pump into the fuel tank and then secure it in place with that rubber seal. And now I've done that, I'm going to see if it actually primes.
The fuel pump is installed. I've loosely put on the fuel line and I haven't fully tightened it all the way down, just in case for whatever reason this doesn't work. But I'm going to plug it in, and what I want to hear is some noise coming from this fuel pump, just something. I'm not bothered what, just some sort of noise that we weren't getting from the one before. Let's plug it in and let's find out. Please, man. If it's not this, we've got a lot more diagnosing to do. You ready? Yes! It made a noise! Can you hear that? It must have already primed. That definitely made a noise, didn't it? That 100% made a noise. Try again. That sounds like it's working to me. Should we try and fire it up? Should we try and fire the car up for the first time in 7 years? Oh my God, I'm gonna be so happy if this works. I'm gonna be so happy. You ready?
7 long years that this key hasn't been turned in this car and this engine hasn't started. Let's see if it works.
This should turn on. This honestly should. There's nothing that says that this car should not start up. I can hear the fuel pump again. 3, 2, 1. It's alive! It didn't sound great, but it's definitely alive. Oh my God! maybe it does need an oil change. That is the car's first start in over 7 years, and it has fired straight up. It was that fuel pump all along. It was just, well, broken. What a result that is. I really don't know what the fuel gauge is doing. Maybe there just isn't much fuel in it at all, but the car does, on the turn of a button, run. Again, it doesn't sound amazing. It's very... But then I've never heard one of these engines before. It just, to me, sounds a little bit tappy and a little bit... I don't know. It doesn't sound awfully bad, but at the same time, it doesn't sound really, really smooth. It just sounds a little bit... Then again, this oil's probably not been changed in easily 7 years. So, I think for now, we'll turn that off. What an absolute result. The car is looking amazing, and we now know that the engine is alive. Whether it's healthy or not, I'm not sure, but it starts and it works. So that is really good news. Whether it needs some work in the future or whether we need to do anything to the engine, at least we know that we've got a good basis to start from with it actually running. Now it's time to refit and sort out all the fuel pump and refit the seats and get everything back where it was, because hopefully we don't have to touch that fuel pump for a good while.
Now I can properly reinstall that brand new fuel pump. First job is to make sure that that locking ring is fully tight, because we don't want this fuel pump moving around while I'm driving. Then I can refit the fuel line. I'm going to use a Jubilee clamp to hold it in place, because the old clamp I had to break to get out. And once that's all done, I can put the lid back over the fuel pump, reinstall the rear bench, and that is the fuel pump reinstalled. And now it leaves one question, and that is, how much did I pay for this BMW E36 328i?
Well, what a great start to the project. As of now, the bodywork is in way better condition than I thought. The engine, although it doesn't sound amazing, is running and it does start. Which leaves the big question, and that is, how much did I pay for my abandoned BMW E36 328i? And I don't think anyone is going to believe me when I say it was £300. Do know that this car does run. I don't know if it drives yet. The only thing stopping me from being able to roll this car / drive it is the wheels and tyres. All 4 of these tyres, after 7 years of sitting around, have gone completely perished and they no longer hold air. So the first job is to take all 4 wheels off, take them to the wheelman. We're going to get the wheels refurbed straight away, and we've got 4 brand new tyres to go on. So first, let's get them off.
So first I'm going to loosen all of the wheel nuts, which to my surprise actually came off pretty easy. I was expecting them to be seized, but now they're loose, I can take off the wheels and I'll soon find out if these are genuine or not. All 4 of these tyres are completely perished, and the alloys themselves have definitely seen better days, so we've got to get that sorted.
Now, I know what everyone is probably thinking. Why in the world are you prioritising getting the wheels refurbed before we've got the engine running nice and we've had a look underneath? But we'll do all that at the end of the video. The main priority is so I can actually get the car rolling, so I can roll it onto the ramps and work on it a lot easier. With it having 4 flat tyres, it's pretty much stranded in the position it's in, and while the tyres are all off, it kind of just makes sense to get them refurbed at the same time. So let's take all 4 of these alloys to the wheelman, then we can come back and get started on the engine.
So of course I brought them down to see the wheelman, who's going to do a complete refurbishment of these alloys and of course replace all 4 tyres. And if there's one person that's going to know if these are genuine or not, it's him.
We've just found out that this wheel, unfortunately, it says made in Italy on it, and there's no BMW badge, and you can see that this little sticker is just stuck onto the alloy. But then, Sam's just noticed, how are we, Sam?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, how you going? You alright?
We've just noticed that the other wheel has a indent for the badge, which we thought, that's interesting. And this one does actually say BMW. So we've got 2 replica wheels,
Yeah.
and 2 genuines.
Weirdly as well, they all seem to have the same size tyre, but I'd be interested to know if they've got staggered.
Set up, yeah.
Because
That'd
normally
be
most
interesting.
BMWs it's staggered, so the rear wheels are wider.
Bigger, yeah.
But it is odd that that's a 225, that's a 225, and I think that one is as well.
Yeah, 225. That would be interesting.
Well, I'll check all the sizes when we take the tyres off and just see if there is a difference in width. Because if there is, it might be that they put the wrong wheels on the wrong size tyres as well.
I know what you're saying. Right, we'll leave them with you, mate.
Yeah, we'll investigate. We'll let you know.
Right, let's get back to the driveway and carry on. Next job on the agenda, before we have a look at all the underneath, the sills, the arches and everything, which we'll do a little bit later, the next job is the engine. I want to preserve this engine and make sure that, well, it's running to the best of its ability. I feel like there's no point getting everything welded and everything done until this engine is running the best it can possibly run. So I think what makes sense right now is to do a complete fluid flush. We'll drop all the coolant, we'll drop all the oil, and pretty much start fresh. As this has been sat doing nothing, so the oil pump hasn't been pumping oil to the top of the engine, and it's probably very dry, which is most likely the reason it sounds pretty rough. So I think first job is coolant. Let's do the coolant.
To drain the coolant from the radiator, first I've got to remove the plastic under tray that's held in by 4 10mm bolts. And now that's out the way, it gives me access to the drain plug for the radiator, and once I've loosened that, the coolant should start coming out. And although it's not necessary, I'm just going to remove the front splitter because this could do with a lick of paint, and I'll do that a little bit later.
And that is the coolant drained. It isn't actually this colour. This is of course an oil drain pan and it's mixed in with the coolant. But for now, I know obviously the thermostat is going to be closed. I'm going to just flush the radiator completely through with some water until it comes out of the bottom, all nice and clear. And then I'm going to fill it back up with coolant, and we should be good with the coolant side.
So the easiest way of doing this is to simply run the hose pipe through the radiator, and what I want to see is when the water coming out of the bottom is completely crystal clear. That way I know there's no more dirt inside the radiator. And then once I'm happy with that, I can then tighten that drain plug and now fill the car back up with coolant, and that is the radiator fully drained and all the coolant replaced.
Next job, now the coolant is done, is to drop the oil, and I'm actually pretty interested into what it looks like. So, under the car, undo the sump plug, drop the oil.
Are we ready to see what this looks like? I'm hoping it's not too bad. It didn't look bad on the dipstick, but I'm intrigued to see what 7-year-old stale oil looks like. That is definitely not as bad as I was expecting. That's actually still got some brown in it. Check that out. That's actually pretty decent oil.
Okay, next is to take off this rocker cover. So, first job is to get this, I think there's just a fuel rail cover. That's the old, well, that is the oil cap, and look how dry that is. There's just not much been going on inside this engine for a long time. So I think this is the fuel rail cover. I don't know if that's even a thing, but there's 2 little caps here, and then there should be 2 10mm bolts. And that should give me access Yeah, I guess that is just a fuel rail cover. I kind of prefer these engines without all the plastic stuff on, so I don't know whether I'll put that back on. I don't know whether I will. But
I think to get these rocker covers off, we've got to take out all 6 of the coils. We've got to take the harness off for the coils. I don't know if the fuel rail comes off. I think the fuel rail is okay to stay in. Yeah, I'll figure this out as I go. Again, I've never worked on one of these engines. It is a little bit similar to the 135i that I had, so it should be pretty straightforward. Just a load of bolts holding the rocker cover down. I'm intrigued to see what the top of this engine looks like, because it's, again, not been started in a very long time, so I'm very, very optimistic with what I'm about to find out. So let's get it off. So I'm going to unplug all 6 of the coils and get the harness out the way. And now I can remove all the 10mm bolts holding the coils in place, and it's probably a good time to ask you guys, if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button, because it helps me out massively. And now I can undo all 15 of the bolts holding the rocker cover to the top of the engine. There's 4 bolts going down the middle, and then the other 11 are around the outside of the rocker cover, and once they're done, it should be ready to pry off. Okay, I think that is everything ready for the rocker cover to come off. I've unplugged the breather pipe, all of the bolts are off, all of the coils are out. I think we should be able to pry it off. Oh my god, that is properly stuck on there. Wow, that is properly on. Oh. Yeah, look how dry it all looks. Although there's no scoring at all on the exhaust cams. I'll have a look what the intake cams look like, but you know what, that is actually looking a lot better than I thought. Not that there was any issue with this engine when it last ran, but there's no horrible markings on any of the cams. It does just look really, really dry, which is most likely going to be the reason. I mean, look at all that. That is very, very dry. Has this turned to plastic, shall we see? Yeah, as suspected, these just go from rubber to just brittle plastic. And you know what, unless someone has got it from BMW, that is the OEM rocker cover gasket. Check that out. That should be a liquid. Yeah, we either need a new rocker cover, or we need to get this properly clean. Oh my god, look at all the goo. This is just from where it's not been doing anything, and it's just sat. Yeah, I don't know where I'll be able to get this cleaned, or if I should probably clean it myself. Maybe just some brake cleaner and try and get it looking the best I can. But engine wise, I'm pretty happy with that. The chain, tight as anything. Not that it wouldn't be, but I'm actually really pleased with what this is looking like. This part of the gasket has actually stayed on the engine, and I really don't want this to snap in place. There we go, we're good. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with that. Really happy with how that is looking. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good result. I was expecting it to be worse. It's not great. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Now I can get started trying to clean the inside of this rocker cover as much as I can. So I'm removing the old gasket, and now I'm going to spray G101 all inside and then pour boiling hot water to try and break down all the stubborn oil and leave it to dwell. While I'm waiting, I can scrape off all the old sealant from the top of the engine, ready for the new gasket to go on later. That is now all ready for when we put the rocker cover back on, of course, with the new rocker cover gasket. Now it's time to try and empty this without it spilling everywhere, and then I'm taking it to the local car wash because they've got a pretty high powered pressure washer, and I'm going to rinse it through. So I'm going to try and do this without
it going everywhere. Oh my God, look at that. Oh, that is nasty. Look how well it's come up. That's pretty bad, isn't it? Wow.
Thankfully, that G101 and the boiling hot water actually did a pretty good job, but now I'm going to blast it off at the local car wash with a pressure washer, and then I can hang it up to dry overnight.
We are all dry, and although it is definitely not perfect, what we're going to do once this goes back on should definitely improve it. So for now, we'll get the rocker cover gasket in, get the rocker cover back on the car, put everything back in, and then we're doing an oil flush. I'm going to be running the car up to temperature, which will hopefully break away all the stubborn stuff. Then we're going to drain the oil again and then actually fill it up properly. So let's get it back on.
First step, install the fresh new gasket. Now I can get the rocker cover in place and start refitting the bolts. 4 in the middle, 11 round the outside. Once these are tight, I'm going to torque them up to 10 Newton meters, starting with the 4 in the inside and working my way in a star pattern around the rest. Now I can refit the earth wires for the coils, plug the harness back in and get all 6 of the coils back in place and bolt them down. Job done.
Okay, rocker cover is back on with a fresh gasket. All the bolts are torqued to spec. Now, the plan, fill it up with oil, and then I've got this, which is what it says on the tin. It is engine flush. So I've got 5 litres here, I've got another 2 litres there, so I'm going to fill the engine up with oil and of course add the engine flush. We're going to then run it for 10 minutes, let it get up to temperature, make sure the dash is saying it's up to temperature, and by doing that, this flush should get to work on pretty much cleaning all the internals of the engine. Then we can flush all the old oil out, and then I've got more oil over there to put in, and we should be ready to, well, move on. That should be the engine kind of okay at that point, I hope. So, next job, fill it up with oil.
And of course, I'm going to be fitting a new oil filter. I've bought 2 of these instead of cheaping out. So I'm going to replace the O-ring on the oil filter housing, replace that oil filter, and then get it back in place. And this will be coming back out and be replaced once we fill it up with the ongoing oil.
New oil filter in, new oil in, and of course that engine cleaner. But before we turn this engine on and run it up to temperature, the wheels are done.
So I'm heading back to the wheelman where he's refurbished all 4 of the alloys and also fitted 4 brand new tyres, and I can't wait to see what they look like.
They look unreal.
Look at them. Oh, they're going to look so good. Look at them. Wait, they come out even better than I thought.
Yeah.
I'm glad I went for that silver. That's a beautiful silver. Is that powder coat or spray?
Powder coat, yeah.
Is it?
As per usual, a massive shout out to the wheelman in Langley Mill. If any of you guys are wanting your wheels refurbed or need some new tyres, then you know exactly where to go, and I'll put the link in the description if you don't already know. But before we get the wheels fitted to the car, I've got to turn this engine on and let the oil flush do its job.
Right. Let's do it. Ready?
Now we wait until it gets up to temperature, and already that engine sounds a lot healthier. I'm hoping the longer it runs, the better it sounds, I hope.
So now I can just let the car do its job and let that oil flush get to work. I'm going to let the car idle for 10 minutes just so everything can get up to temperature, and that's the first time that this has been done in over 7 years, so I'm hoping it's all good.
Well, the engine got to temperature, it stayed at temperature, didn't overheat, but it still sounds really tappy and ticky, and I thought maybe once things start to get to temperature and lubricate, that might have quietened down a bit, but it hasn't. So I'm starting to think maybe we need a couple of injectors, and I think it probably just makes sense to change all four for the time being. But for now, let's drop the flush out and that oil, and then we can put the proper oil in. And then for now, that's pretty much the engine done, and we can move on to seeing what condition this bodywork's in and underneath, which I'm not looking forward to this bit, but let's get this oil out.
So now I can repeat the process again. I'm going to drop that oil, then change the oil filter, and of course fill the engine back up with oil. This needs 6.5 litres, and the good news is the oil that we just drained looks really good. There's no shards of any metal anywhere.
There we go, 6.5 litres of Total Energies Quartz 5W30, which is what I've been recommended for this engine. Okay, I guess the last thing to do to give this engine the healthiest ongoing life possible is the air filter. I've not got a clue what that one actually looks like, so I'm intrigued to see what it does look like after. Well, then again, it actually shouldn't be dirty, because if it's not ran in 7 years, it's not been able to collect anything for 7 years. But I'm still interested to see what it looks like, and I think these, how you get them off, you've kind of got to lift this tab out the way, yeah, and then the box should pull up with the air filter in it. Oh, it has gone a bit discoloured, but it's not that dirty, really. Yeah, that's not bad at all, but even so, out with the old, and we'll replace it with a new one. Now, in the future, I'm pretty sold on the idea of putting individual throttle bodies on one of these with the big massive carbon intake. That, I think, is the end goal, but for now a fresh new oil filter is
it's an air filter.
A fresh new air filter is definitely a job well done. Okay, next job is going to be a little bit bittersweet. I've got to find out what the underneath of this car looks like. With it being stood for so long, I don't actually know the condition of it before it got abandoned, and I'm kind of unsure on the condition of it right now. With it being sat for, again, over 7 years, condensation forms on the windows, it drips down into the arches, and it just sits there. There's nowhere for it to go, and that's how rust ends up building up. And I am pretty sure there is going to be a fair bit of welding need to be done on this car. How much, I don't know. I'm hoping it's not a full restoration job, that it's going to have to go on one of them spit turn wheel things and have to really be a big job, but I guess there's only one way to find out.
I'm going to remove the side skirts, and all I can do is pray and keep my fingers crossed that behind them isn't a complete disaster. I'm prepared for this car to need some welding, but what I don't know yet is how much, and it wasn't long until I found out.
The side skirt's off, and in the middle it's all good. Over here, now, at what point does the wing become the body? Because is that the wing? I think that's the wing. I think that is part of the wing. It is. That's the wing. That's not the end of the world. Yeah. Okay. That's the wing, which, oh, I thought that was the body then. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's going to get worse, but the actual structure's not too bad over here. Let's get this side skirt out of the way. You know what? Might not be as bad as I thought. Rear arches. Okay, so that's metal. It's just the outer part, but I'm pretty certain you can buy this entire strip down here from the door to the rear arch. I mean, they are completely gone. Okay, that's quite bad. What did I say about condensation dripping down under and sitting in that sill? Let's check this out. Shall we have a look at what I just put my fist through? Oh God. Oh. I thought that was not too. I mean, that is obviously. Oh wow. Oh wow. Yeah. Oh, she's rusty. She's not very well. But so these holes here, you can see there's a hole there, there's a hole down there. They're the holes for the little plastic bungs for the side skirt, and they've clearly just held water or condensation and rotted through. But yeah, that's pretty bad. These are the rear jacking points. I'm pretty sure this is really common stuff on an E36, so that's not the end of the world. That, I think you can buy all of these panels. So we're starting to get to metal again. Safe to say it's definitely going to need some welding. Right, rear arches. What are we looking like under here? Under here, oh wait, is that, I think that's just rubber padding. I don't think, yeah, it's rubber, like rubber padding or something. We're actually pretty good on the rear arch side of things. I'm not too worried about that. Again, this is obviously a project. This is to be expected with a car for £300. Okay, so we're going to need, I think it's just worth doing an entire driver's side sill and maybe the rear arches. The front wheel arches, of course, we've just found out that we're going to need a new wing, and apart from that, that's not bad. I don't think that's bad at all. I don't think that's bad at all. I've got to be honest, I was expecting it to be worse. I was expecting it to be a lot worse. I think it's still savable. I think this front bit here, yeah, there's another rather large orifice up there, which, oh yeah, that's gone completely through as well. I don't know if this all is common E36 things. Oh wow, yeah, that's definitely rotten. I've got a feeling that it's to do with this stuff that BMW use. It's like a, I think that's the OEM kind of underseal slash protection, and that's clearly just held all the moisture. We definitely need to take this wing off and see what it's like, but I mean, it starts going pretty solid again, but we've got a nice big hole there. Luckily, past that isn't too bad. All fixable, I think.
I guess it was to be expected, but that might not be the worst that is yet to come. This side is the curb side. Of course, in England, we drive on the left-hand side of the road, so the left-hand side of the car / passenger side is always going to be to the closest of the curb. And normally, that's where all the salt gathers up, that's where all the dirt gathers, all the leaves and all the moisture. And normally, cars rot quicker on the passenger side than they do the driver's side. So I'm hoping that it's not too bad.
Okay, the rear arches. Oh, definitely not as bad as the other side. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's a hole. Yeah, that's another hole. Seen it under there? That's another one, and that might require the fuel tank to come off to fix that one, because that's going to be welding right next to the fuel tank, so we may have to drop the fuel tank. Right, what we like underneath? Oh, look at that, another hole. Admittedly though, nowhere near as bad as the driver's side. Again, the typical rusting around them little holes for the plastic clips for the side skirts has occurred, but pretty much same on the other side. It's not as bad this side, weirdly. Doesn't really make sense. I do know you can buy the complete rear arch kits, which may just be worth investing in, and get these all cut out and the other ones put in. I'm not giving up with this car. I think... What you found? More rust! Right, the front. Should we see what the front's like? That's not too bad. What's underneath? Not bad at all, and actually it's only just starting to go on this side. That's not bad at all. That is not bad at all. Although it may look really, really bad, I was expecting it to be a lot worse. I'm pretty sure, and I need you E36 people in the comments to let me know, I'm pretty sure that they're the common places where these cars tend to rust. Now, of course, it always ends up being more than what we've discovered, so that's to be expected, but we definitely are going to need 2 front wings, and yeah, I'm going to have to get a quote for someone to do all of the welding. Now, I could start trying to weld myself, but I want it to be done properly. I'd like someone that has done welding for a long time to do this, because I want to know it's good and it's going to last, because once it's been welded, hopefully it never needs welding again. But I don't know, it's sad to see it like this, but this is kind of the worst it's going to get. From here on, I'm willing to save this car. So I think for now we can put the wheels back on, and this car, for the first time in 7 years, should be able to drive up and down the driveway, which is pretty crazy, actually. That is pretty crazy. Let's get the wheels on.
Now I can get all 4 of the wheels back on, of course being very careful not to scratch them, because these look absolutely unreal. And I guess now I can actually drive this car for the first time, up and down the driveway at least.
That's quieting down. That is a lot quieter. Don't you think? I think what I'm going to do is just let it idle for a little bit, and then actually give it some revs and see if we can build up a bit more oil pressure and try and quieten it down a little bit. It still sounds a little bit tappy, but definitely not as bad as it used to be. What I want to find out now is if it actually moves. Are we ready? Right, first gear. It drives. That's it, first drive. No knocks, no bangs. Yeah, it drives good. I can't believe it's moving after all this time. After all this time. Right, let's give it some revs and see. That's definitely quiet. Well, I'm pretty happy with that result. The engine is definitely a lot better than it was earlier on. But for now, I think the last job to do until we actually get it booked in for all the welding is quickly repaint that front splitter and just get that back on. I know it's not necessary, but I might as well do it while I'm waiting to get the car booked in. Let's get it resprayed.
I'm not aiming for perfection, but the front splitter really made the car look tired. So first I'm going to sand it down, then give it 2 coats of plastic primer. Then I can give it 3 coats of satin black, and it's already looking a lot better. Now I can get it back on the car.
Oh, I can't wait to drive this car.
There's a few Phillips screws holding it to the bumper and then 4 8mm bolts as well. And for 10 minutes of work, that really has made a huge difference.
Today is a big day for the E36, and that's because in its current state as it sits, this is the worst this car is ever going to get. And that's because I've bought everything that it's going to need to restore it to its former glory. And I am very, very excited to get cracking, because over here we've got loads of upgrades and modifications to make this car look even better than it already does, which is going to be hard because I think this car looks insane. But first, we've got all the replacement panels. Of course, these are the front wings. Where this has been sat for so long, as you can see here, there is a big, horrible, nasty rust hole in this driver's side wing, and I thought it just made sense to buy 2 of them and replace them both. So what I've bought to replace those wings is, of course, 2 new ones. In this box is the rear arches. As you can see on mine, at the bottom here, they've gone very crusty and all the paint and everything has just started to peel off over time. So what these are is replacements for what is already in the car. They are going to go in like that. I'm not sure if we're going to be using all of these panels that I've bought, but we've got all the little bits to be able to cut out all the horrible bits and replace with the nice fresh new ones. These are actually for a saloon, but we've got to kind of retrofit them to work for a coupe. The reason being is because BMW have discontinued the coupe or coupe sills and rear arches and stuff like that, so you can't actually get them, but that looks like it fits the exact same. Good. Which must mean that the big box is the replacement sills, I'm hoping. We have the sill replacements. This is what the welder can chop out of my car and replace. Now again, these are for the saloon, so these are where the 2 kind of door shuts would be. Obviously mine is a 2-door, but there is ways you can make these fit. And then the rest of the boxes are upgrades and modifications, but there's a lot more to take care of before we get into that, maybe a little bit later. For now, we've got a bit of a time crunch.
And that's because I'm not messing around with this car, and I've booked it in for all of the welding to be done in 2 days' time. Yeah, I'm cutting it fine.
We've got a lot to do in 2 days' time. A lot needs to come off this car, a lot needs to come out this car, and we've only got 2 days to do it. So I think we should start with the front arches.
The front wings are a really common body panel that corrodes on these cars, so they've got to come off. I'm going to remove the rubber seal to get access to the bolts at the top of the wing. There's 2 bolts in the door shut and also 2 bolts underneath. Next I'm going to remove the side indicator and also the plastic trim on the front wing. Then I've got to get access to the back of the wheel arch because there's a couple of bolts holding the wing in hid behind it. So the wheel's got to come off and I've got to undo all of the 8mm bolts holding in the arch liner. And now they're out the way, it's on to the front bumper. Hidden behind these plastic trims are the 2 main bolts holding in the front bumpers. I can't believe how easy they are to actually take off on these cars. So once I'd undone those 4 bolts, the bumper pretty much came off.
That should be the bumper off, I think. How easy is that? That's so simple. There we go, and that should be the bumper. Free on the car. Okay, next job. I think the lights have got to come out so we can get to the bolts behind the wing there, which should match up there. So we've got 1 bolt there, and 1 bolt there.
The last 2 bolts for the headlight were hidden down behind it, so you need an extension to be able to access them.
There we go! Unplug. Unplug that. These ones are quite cool, look. They twist and then unplug. And that should be 1 headlight off, and it is. Do you know what? They're in quite good condition. They're glass. That's why they don't go hazed. They're glass.
Turns out I didn't actually need to remove the headlight to get access to the bolt for the wing, but I've got some upgrades for the headlights in the future, so it's probably worth taking them out now. But now I can get access to that bolt, I can get the wing off.
Right. That's definitely seen better days, isn't it?
And for now, I don't think there's much point in me fitting the new wings, so I'm just going to get the wheel back on, and now I'm onto the passenger side, which I'm just going to repeat the exact same process as to what I did on the driver's side, and hopefully all the bolts come out nice. And as expected, by stripping it all and taking all the wheel arch lining out, I discovered more rust, but luckily it's not that major and it can get sorted when we do send the car off. But now I can carry on and get the passenger side headlight out and then get the wing off.
Wing number 2. Just like that, the entire front end is pretty much stripped. Of course, both wings are off and there is a little bit of rust on this side, and I'm just going to leave everything kind of stripped, ready for the welding, just in case he needs to do anything else. So I'm going to leave it as it is for now instead of putting that side back together, but this side's going to need some welding. Next job is, as you all seen in the last video, there is quite a few patches that are going to need welding up underneath. The main one being over here, that is my hand completely in that seal. And of course we've got the hole at the front in the floor pan and then a little bit on the other side. So what I've got to do now is pretty much strip all of this interior. With the underneath being welded, there's a very high chance that if we leave the carpets in, the whole thing could catch fire. So I'm gonna do my best to get as much as I can out the way of where the bits are going to be welded, and by doing this I might even uncover some more bits that need welding, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I quite like this car and I don't want it to catch fire. So next job is interior. First job, seats out, rear seats out, and we'll go from there. Let's get cracking.
This is about to be a pretty major job, but I guess this is one of those do it once and do it the first time correct, and you'll not have to worry about it again. And also by stripping the interior, I might even find some more rust on the floor pan, which at least when we can get the car in for welding, we can get that sorted. So first, I'm going to start by taking out the driver's side seat. And now I can remove the passenger side seat.
There we go. Both the seats are out, and the passenger one, if you have a look up close, they actually look brand spanking new. It's almost as if this one has hardly ever been sat in. The driver's one has a little bit of wear on it, but in the future we'll be putting bucket seats in anyway. And someone has actually already helped me with that decision. Check this out. If you have a look at this, this is someone's backyard idea of a resistor. So they've just looped the wire back round, and that stops the airbag light coming on the dashboard for the seats, which has saved me a job really, because that's something I need to do. The other side is still the same, but for the driver's side, yeah, someone has bodged it. There we go. Mats are out. Now, rear bench, and then the backrest. Is that what you call it? Backrest of the rear bench? The rear seats are coming out.
The rear bench is really easy. You simply pull this out, and it's already pretty loose because we had it off in the last video when I had to get access to that fuel pump. And now that's out the way, I can get the rear backrest off. These I've got to separate with the bolts in the middle. So I'm going to unbolt the seat bolts and then undo the bolt that's in the middle, and these simply slide apart and then pull out. Easy stuff. And then it's onto the boot carpets. I'm going to remove it all, and this is when I found something that I think is pretty rare.
Oh, sick! Oh, no way! Is that what the original wheels look like? Oh my god, they're even better! No way! Oh my god, they're BBS as well! Honestly, that is so sick. An original E36 328i Sport alloy, even with the BBS logo on it. That is so cool. I think that is so cool. And now I'm sat here debating which wheels actually look better. We've got the, I believe these are an E39 M5 alloy, or that is so hard to choose from. What do you think?
M5.
You think the M5, you think them ones, really?
Yeah.
They're a little bit more show car kind of look, whereas they're a little bit more aggressive track kind of look, and they're a lot wider, to be fair. But that is what I find. I was not expecting to find that. I just thought it would be a little digestive biscuit as an alloy in the boot. But most of the rear interior is out, and now I don't want to let this drop and damage it. Now I think we can start tackling all the door cards and try and get the carpets out.
The rear door cards, even though there isn't a rear door, are quite easy to remove. I'm going to get the seatbelt out the way, and then these simply just pull off. I'm also going to remove the sound deadening and be careful not to break it or rip it, because I do want to put this back in. I'm going to do the exact same on the other side, and now I'm going to undo the battery because I'm going to start unplugging a few important things. This is an airbag sensor, and I believe it might be the yaw sensor. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you turn this upside down while it's plugged in, it might set off all of the airbags because the car thinks that it's actually flipped on its roof. So I want to be really careful and make sure not to damage it.
And that should be the sensor removed. Right, I'm putting this out the way on a very flat surface.
And if anyone does know which airbag sensor this is and if I am right or wrong, then please let me know down below in the comments. But with that removed, I can now remove the top of the fuel pump covers, which will then let me remove all the wires to get access to the rear sound deadening / carpets, and I can get them out the way. I didn't want to rip them because I do want to reinstall them, so I thought I'd remove all the wires just to do the job properly. And that is the rear pretty much stripped.
Now, of course, I'm going club sport with this car, so I wanted to try and preserve as much of the OEM sound deadening as possible, because I don't want this to sound like a race car when I'm driving it to and from places. I still want to try and keep that OEM plus kind of style to it. So I've took out as much as need be, and I'm just going to keep the rest in. Now it's onto the front. I've got to get these carpets as far away from the floor pan as possible. So instead of taking pretty much the entire center console out and half of the dash out, I think it just makes sense to get all the trims removed and almost kind of fold the carpet into the middle. Depending on which side is being welded, the carpet can be moved to that side. So I think that's the easiest way of doing it without literally having to take everything apart. So let's crack on with the front.
And later on, you'll see how this didn't go to plan whatsoever, and I do end up just stripping the complete interior. But first, I'm going to remove the seatbelt rails so I can start getting that carpet out. Now I can start removing all of the plastic trims that are actually holding this carpet down. With these all out the way, I'd then be able to pry the carpet upwards. I'm going to do it on the passenger side, and of course move on to the driver's side, where I'm going to do the exact same thing. The only thing with the driver's side is I've of course got the pedals in the way. And then I found this.
Bit of a dilemma. I was going to just take kind of half of the carpets out so they can be folded into the middle, but as I was taking this side out, you can clearly see, yeah, there's quite a lot of water that's got into this side of the car, and if you squeeze the carpets, yeah, that is not great. So I think it only makes sense that now I'm this far just to take the entire carpets out. So I'm going to take the center console out, take the throttle pedal out, and get the carpet fully out so I can just dry it while the car is being welded. I think that only makes sense, is to not bodge it and just do it properly. So yeah, I'm going to get the rest of all of this mess out the way. I'm hoping that I don't have to take the dash out, but if I do, I do. I'm hoping it's just this center console part, but either way, this carpet, it's coming out completely.
Now I'm on the driver's side footwell, and I've got to remove the accelerator pedal because the bottom half of it actually attaches to the floor of the car. So I've got to slide the actual metal pedal away from the plastic pedal, and that comes out. Now it's onto the center console, and I'm just hoping at this point I can remember where everything goes. So first I'm going to remove the boot for the handbrake, and then I can remove all the sound deadening around the gear knob, and now it's onto the armrest. I can undo all of that and then start unplugging all of the buttons, and the interior is already looking really bare. And the next part is going to strip it down even more, because to get the rest of the center console out that surrounds the gear knob, I've got to take out the glove box to get to the bolts. So I can disconnect that by undoing the 4 bolts holding it in and unplug the light, and then I should be able to start removing the radio. Once that's removed, I can then access the bolts inside and then pull the center console out. And now I'm on the final stretch. I've just got to try and move everything out the way of this carpet so I can drag it out one way or another. And with a little bit of wrestling, I managed to get it free and actually out of the car.
Yes, we're out. Yes, finally.
And now the interior of this car is looking pretty bare. Pretty much all of the interior is stripped apart from the top half of the dashboard, but it needs to be done.
It put up a little bit of a fight. I had to do a little bit of wrestling, but the interior is stripped. Now, it wasn't actually necessary to remove the carpet, but then I saw all this underneath. If you can see here, there's all water and moisture, and if I'd have let that stay there, it would have eventually just eaten away at the metal and it would have caused even more rust. If we look at that actual carpet itself, you can see here it is completely soaked in, I don't know where that's come from, but look at that. That's so bad, in it. I'm glad I've removed that because I'll give this a proper good hoover and probably like snow foam it, pressure wash it and get it looking pretty much brand new. Like I say, we're doing a club sport build with this car, so I don't want to take the carpets out. I want it to be good on track but also nice to drive on the road. Okay, next job. This car is going for welding at the end of today, and preferably it'd be a lot easier if I can get it actually running and driving so we can drive it onto the trailer. So what does it need? Now, I'm not entirely sure if I'd be able to just plug the battery in and it would work. It might. The only worry is this thingy sensor here, the yaw sensor. I might just try it. It's unplugged from the car, and I feel like if I plugged it back in with everything else unplugged, it could maybe trigger that. So I think I'm going to try and just plug the fuel pumps back in, plug the fuel sender back in, and then hopefully we can start the car. There's going to be loads of warning lights on the dashboard because nearly everything is unplugged, but all we pretty much need is the handbrake to work, the gear stick to work, and the engine to work. Oh, and the fuel pump. So let me get them plugged back in and we'll just give it a go.
So I'm going to get the fuel pump plugged back in. There's 2 plugs for this, and of course the 1 plug for the fuel sender, and now I can get the positive and negative terminals back on the battery.
Okay, battery's back on, the lights are working. Should see what it says on the dash. Where are the airbags in this thing? Is there any in these pillars? No. Are we ready? We're back on. Okay, that's all I need. That's all I need it to do is run. Cool. Right, next stop for this car is getting it welded.
And that is exactly where I've took it. I don't want to mess around with this project. I want to get it done as soon as possible because I've always wanted to drive a BMW E36. So I want to get this back on the road as soon as I possibly can. So I've brought it to a local welder who's going to cut out all of the rust. And it's obvious that it needed a lot more than we actually knew about. But that was almost to be expected. So Steve's going to completely cut out all of that horrible, nasty corrosion and replace it with nice brand new metal. And while he's busy doing that, I'm going to take off the rear bumper because I'm going to get him to weld in that arch where it's gone a little bit bubbled on the rear. So I'm going to get the bumper off so we can get better access to that.
And that's it. That's my job done with the E36. It's pretty much as stripped as it needs to be for Steve to do all of the welding repairs. So I'm going to go away and let Steve crack on.
Now, like I've mentioned in the previous video, this car is going to get an entire respray, and yes, I am going to be doing it in a pretty cool colour, and I think I've already made my mind up as to which one it is. So when we get it to the body guy, he's going to tidy up all of the welds and make it look perfect. I just wanted Steve to get rid of the rust and replace it with some good metal. And you're probably all wondering how much this has all cost me. This was about a week and a half's worth of welding and it cost me £550. I do know Steve quite well, so he did help me out on the price, but that is how much it has cost to get my BMW all welded up. And like I say, it did need a lot more than we actually anticipated. So a massive thank you to Steve for getting this done for me, and it weren't long until he'd finished.
The BMW is back, and it is all rust free, and it's had all the welding done. So the sills that we bought have all now been welded in. The only thing I've got to do when I put this car together is just drill the holes for the side skirts to clip back on. We've put an entire sill on the car, and then underneath here, if you have a look, it is all reinforced, and he's actually used thicker metal than what the factory put in the car, so the jacking points are even stronger than what they were from BMW. On this side, he has also put in the arch, not the entire thing, but if you can look down here, we no longer have crusty arches or anything like that. It's all nice and solid. Of course, it looks a lot worse for wear because it obviously needs the body guy to come and do all the work on this side. Round here, we've had the exact same thing done. It has had the full sill with the jacking points reinforced, and this side has only had a little bit of the rear arch. I don't know if you can also see just in there, that was also rotten and ended up going through, so all that's been replaced in the arch. On the front, there was a patch down here that needed welding that we found in the last video. If you look under there, that has all been welded in and is now all good to go. And just that bit over there in the wheel arch next to the fuel tank, that has also been welded as well. So this car is well and truly rust free, but we've got a couple more bits to do.
So first, I'm going to etch down all of the welds, because when I did bring this car back, it was raining, so they've already started to rust a little bit. So I'm going to make sure that I scratch all that off, and when I've done that, I can start giving it the coat of oxide primer. This is going to encapsulate all of that rust to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And once I've done that coat, I'm then going to give it a coat of grey primer, just so it looks that little bit nicer. Again, the body shop is going to take care of all of this properly. I just wanted to try and do my bit.
And now that is all taken care of, I can definitely rest assured that it's not going to rust again. But just to be 1000% sure, I've got some underbody underseal. This is spray on by Liqui Moly. Liqui Moly? By Molly. Molly made this. And I am just going to dose all the underneath of the car in that. The side skirt part, that will probably be painted body colour, but all the bits underneath and in the wheel arches, I'm going to give a good coat of underseal.
In the future, I am planning on doing a proper underseal job myself on this car, but for now, I just want to protect those exposed bits of metal that have just been welded. And now I could do the exact same thing on the other side.
We have got a lot of work to do because this car has been off the road for way too long now, and all I want to do is drive it. So today I'm hoping I can get it to a point where it only needs a few more bits until we can actually take it for an MOT. That's the goal. First, I've got to take everything out, and then I've got to start with the carpets and pretty much reverse what I did when I stripped it down for the welding.
Okay, let's get this interior back together once and for all. First, I'm taking out all of the loose parts, and then I can give it a quick clean, and now I'm onto the carpet. When I removed this carpet, it was drenched in moisture from the years that this car had been sat abandoned. So now it's dried out, I'm giving it a quick hoover to try and bring it back to life.
And there we go, that is the carpet now, as clean as I pretty much want it. all of this stuff, and this isn't even really half of the interior, the rest is in the shed. Can I remember how it goes back together? No, but to get all that back in, the first job we've got to do is get this carpet back in. I'm not sure how this is going to go back in. Getting it out was a bit of a nightmare, and I feel like getting it back in is just going to be twice as hard, but there's only one way to find out, so let's try and get this carpet back in this car.
At first, I thought this was going to be an absolute nightmare, but after putting the car in its position, it almost fell into place. I just had to push it up a little bit more behind the dash. Now I can attach the accelerator pedal. This actually clips into a metal tab that sticks up through a slit in the carpet, and once I've attached it to that, I can then clip it into the metal part. So far, so good. Now we can fit the small piece of carpet that tucks under the carpet that we've just installed and hooks onto the tabs for the rear bench. Now I'm actually onto the door sill covers that hold the carpet in place. I'm going to do the driver's side. And of course the passenger side.
Now, I'm going to do the back. I'm going to get all the sound deadening back in the back, and I've got to try and figure out how it all went and manoeuvre it around all of these wires, because I want to kind of put it back to OEM so it's not stupidly raw like a track car. I want it to just be like OEM plus Club Sport, as if it was out of the factory. So let's see if I can get all the sound deadening back on.
This part of sound deadening goes over the fuel pump and the fuel sender covers, so I've got to figure out where the wires pull through. I'm going to refit the covers and then push the wires through the cutouts in the material. I'm not sure how much this will help, but I guess the more soundproofing the better. Now the sound deadening's back in place, I can reinstall the yaw sensor / airbag sensor, and once that's on, I can plug it back in, and then I'm onto the rear door cards. I'm going to do the driver's side and of course the passenger side.
The next job is pretty much to start getting the rear seats back in, and then we can start tackling the front. So I don't actually remember how these go. I think you've got to kind of, no, that's definitely not for that side, is it? I think this big bolt bit here clips in up here. There we go. It's actually quite easy, this stuff, although I can't really remember when I brought them off. Oh look, there's even a right and left marker. Although I can't remember it, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just got to use your head a little bit. Right, that's back in. Unfortunately that one has gone a little bit kind of aged, but that's those in. Now these, I think, tuck down into that gap there, just a little bit more soundproofing. I did want to make sure that I keep this as OEM as possible. They go down there. Now I think I'm on to the backrests.
The backrests are also pretty easy to work out. I just got to slide the outer side into the hole, then push it down on the inner side and it clicks back into place. And now the driver's side's back in, I can fit the passenger side.
We're in. It's so hot in this car.
But that's not going to stop me, so I've got to reattach the seat bolts with the two 14mm bolts.
And the last part of the rear is to reinstall the bench. And I think that's it. Okay, now I'm on to the front. So I actually can't remember how this came apart, so I'm actually going to have to re-watch my video and do it in reverse order. I think I took everything off to get this middle piece off here that surrounds the gear stick. So I think that is going to go on first, then we're going to put the glove box on, and then followed by this centre armrest. I'm not actually going to reinstall the armrest because one thing I have noticed, especially in my Civic, that actually has an armrest, and every now and then when I'm shifting it, you can catch your elbow on the armrest. Now in the Civic, that's okay because it's not always going to be on track. This is primarily going to be a track car, so I don't want to be hitting my elbow on an armrest. So I'm not going to be reinstalling that, but I'm going to try and remember where all the screws go, where all the bolts go, and where everything plugs into. Let's give it a go.
So the first step, if I can remember, is to refit the part in the centre console that surrounds the gear stick. I can push it up into place and then refit the one nut and the 3 screws holding it down. Next is the rear part where the armrest would have been. This fits around the handbrake, and because I've deleted the armrest, only attaches with the main screw at the front. Now it's time to sort out all the wiring, which for me is the worst part of working on cars. I've got to figure out which connector plugs into which side and what attaches to what, and I won't know until I actually test them.
Let's see if the right windows are in the right ones, which they are. Good. Oh, I've put them the wrong way around. The white arrow is meant to be at the top, so at least they're the right sides, but I've got to flip them around. Do the hazards work? The hazards do work. Good. Okay, now all the radio and CD player and stuff like that, whatever goes there.
Luckily with this part I'd already used the majority of the unplugged cables, so I can just plug that little CD player back in, and that's that job done.
Last job of the centre console is the shifter boot, and we've got a nice little fresh gear knob. Now this will be getting upgraded in the near future, but I think that's on. Much better. In the future we will be getting a proper good nice short shifter for it, but for now that will do just fine. Okay, centre console is done. Now I can move on to the glove box.
So far everything's going a lot better than I actually thought it would. So to fit the glove box, it's held in with 4 screws up top, and then underneath in the footwell there's another 2. Next I can fit the plastic trim on the left hand side of the footwell, and that's the passenger side pretty much complete. Back to the driver's side, I can now fit the under tray that screws into the dashboard with 2 screws and attaches behind the pedals, and the last thing for this side is to put the plastic trim back along with the bonnet release lever. Now I'm on to the second to last job until this interior is actually complete, and that is to refit the rails for the seat belts.
The last and final step of the interior finally is the seats, and I can't believe how good it's actually looking in here. It literally looks almost factory fresh, apart from the fact that these rear seats have just gone a little bit aged from where they've been folded down for literally 7 years. The interior is done, and honestly, I know I've said it before, I properly cannot wait to actually drive this car for the first time. Like, I've never been so excited to actually drive a car. All I've heard is good stuff about these, of how good the chassis are, and all you see around the Nürburgring is E36s and E46s, so I just can't wait to be able to actually put my foot down and have some fun in this car, but we've still got a long way to go. I've got the whole exterior to now rebuild. We've got the headlights to go back in, the front bumper to go back on, the rear bumper to go back on, but this is where the fun begins in this video, because I've got a few modifications that are going on at the same time, and you're probably wondering why in the world am I starting to modify it before it's actually on the road. Well, because while I'm putting everything back together, it kind of just makes sense to add these while the parts are off the car instead of a little bit later. So I think, with that being said, shall I start on the front or shall I start on the back? Let's start at the back. First job is reinstall the rear bumper, and I think in the future I might have a modification for the bottom of this bumper, but for now this is just simply going back on, and it's been that long I'm hoping I can remember how to put this all back together. But let's give it a go.
Okay, now it's time to get the exterior back together. Luckily, BMW have actually made fitting the rear bumper pretty easy. All I've got to do is slide the bumper back into the two holes. So technically, the bumper is actually part of the rear crash bar, and by removing the rear bumper, I've actually removed the rear crash bar, so I definitely want to install it properly. Once it's in place, there's 4 bolts to refit in the boot, and now I can reinstall the rubber weather seal that I have no idea why I removed in the first place. Next, the plastic trims for the rear bumper. Again, another part I'm not sure why I removed, but now they're back on, the final part of refitting this bumper is to put the two 10mm bolts back into the wheel arch, 2 on the driver's side and, you guessed it, 2 on the passenger side, and that is the rear bumper reinstalled.
Now, I was about to say that is the rear end complete, but like I said earlier, the fun begins now. So, to complete this rear end, this spoiler, it's gone all kind of hazed and all the lacquer's come off, it's cracked, and it's looking a lot worse for wear. So, I bought a little something to make this look 100 times better, and it's going to make the car look 100 times better, and even serve a purpose when it is on track. So before I show you, let's get this spoiler off and then I'll show you the new one.
This car is 27 years old, and I guarantee that this spoiler has not once ever been removed from this boot lid. So when I tried to get it off, I was expecting the bolts to just round off, and that's exactly what they did. So I'm going to get the drill out and drill them screws out of them holes. Luckily, I won't need to be reusing them.
So, what I have bought to go on the back of this BMW, a lot of people, if you know about your E36s, can probably guess what this is. But this is a GT style wing. So, it is almost an OEM plus wing. I'm pretty sure this style of wing might have come on the Evo version of these cars. I'm not clued up with my BMWs, but I'm pretty sure this is an OEM Plus kind of mod. Either way, it looks unbelievable, and you might be thinking that that is all. No, there's actually 2 levels to this spoiler, and I'll show you what it's going to look like. This part is going to bolt to the car. These parts are going to sit on the ends, and then the final part bolts, oh no, on top. So that is what it's going to look like. That looks awesome. That is going to look insane. But you can probably see what the big problem is. The car is silver and the spoiler is black. So I think with no other option, and especially on a day like this being a Saturday, I think we should just try and paint this ourselves. I'm not sure what the end plan for this E36 is going to be, whether I get it resprayed silver and then wrap it, or whether we respray it a different colour. I'm not sure, but for now it's just going to go back silver, so I can make that decision a little bit later down the line. So I think we should try and spray this silver.
And if you've never heard of the saying, leave it to the professionals, then this is about to be a great example of exactly what that means. But I'm going to give it a go. First step, sand it down. I want to make sure I'm sanding away any glossy areas of this spoiler, so it will give the best chance of the primer to stick. Second step, primer. For the primer, I'm giving it 3 coats. So far, I'd actually say it's looking pretty good. I ended up having to go out and get more paint and more primer, but at this point, I thought it was all going to be worth it. The last step is the lacquer, which I thought would be okay, but this is the part where I should have just left it to the professionals.
I've left it to dry overnight, and as you can see, well, this side we had a fly straight into it and stick to it, and we had a massive run in the lacquer. So that's cost me, I think, a good 70 quid in rattle cans, and yeah, I'm just giving it to the body guys to spray properly for two reasons. One, I don't actually like this black bit, so I even ran out of paint and I've needed more, and two, it looks awful, and I want this car, although I do want to do most of it myself, I do want it to also look half decent, so getting it professionally sprayed is going to make it look a lot better. I have drilled the holes for the spoiler and bolted these two together because, and I'm glad that I actually did this beforehand, because getting the bolts in this tight area down here, you end up having to like scuff it, so this and that are going to get sprayed together. So it will look better. The only problem is today is Sunday and tomorrow I'm dropping this off and hopefully getting it back in the afternoon. So I don't know when we're going to get this video up, but some things go wrong, some things go right, and this one went a little bit wrong. Not the end of the world. Right, now we've got to move on to the front end where I've got a few more upgrades and modifications to install. But first, we've got to get it put back together. Okay, we've got this full front end to build back up, and the reason all this is mostly stripped was to get the two wings off because they'd gone horrible, nasty and corroded. So what we did is we bought two new wings off eBay, and Custom Paintworks in Derby have very kindly sprayed these for me, and they have done a very, very nice job. They did offer to kind of blend them into the bumper and the doors, but with this primarily being a track car, I'm not too fussed on that, so they just sprayed them the same colour as the car. So we can put these straight on and not have to worry about getting them sprayed in the future. So I'm hoping that these just kind of go on the exact same way I took them off. The only issue that I'm going to run into is lining everything up and having to kind of hold the bonnet up while I put them two bolts in, but I got them off, so I'm pretty sure I can get them back on.
These are a little bit awkward, especially because they've just been freshly sprayed, and a huge thank you to Custom Paintworks for doing them last minute. I'll leave their link in the description. The hardest part is aligning the two rear bolts with the wing for the bonnet, but once they're on, the rest of the bolts should line up pretty easy. There's 3 up top, 2 in the door shut, and then 2 more down under the sill.
Passenger side wing is on. The only issue is I'm trying to get this little plastic trim back into place, but as you can see on the original ones, for some reason they have completely split, and they're meant to go across like that, and then there's little green kind of bungs that go into the wing, and they're held in place with them little tiny clips on the end to stop them popping back out. So unfortunately we're not going to be able to fully finish the wings. I think it might just make sense to order the complete set, so middle, front wing and rear quarter, brand new ones of these with all new clips, and I think they're about £108 from eBay. I think that makes sense just to do that. I might not even need to change that one, but it'd be nice to just have a fresh set with fresh clips just to go onto a fresh nice new wing. So I might do that in the end. That's the only thing that I can't actually do in time is this, because unfortunately, yeah, I don't know if it's when I pulled them off or if it's just a common thing that they go like that, but they're pretty much kaput. It's the same for the driver's side as well. That one's started to do the same. I don't know why, but unfortunately they cannot go back on. But the passenger side is on, and now I can move on to the driver's side.
The driver's side obviously is the same as the passenger side, so once all the bolts are lined up and in place, that's 2 brand new freshly resprayed wings on. Last thing to do to finish them off is to refit the weather seal around the top.
There we go, the wings are on. All of the little, whatever you call these, wind proofing, wind seals or weather seals are on. Like I say, these are freshly painted, and of course this is 20 however years old. Miraculously, the bonnet actually lines up pretty well. We've got pretty even gaps both sides. Now in the end, I don't know what to do with this car. Like I said, I don't know whether to get it wrapped, get it resprayed a different colour, I'm not sure, but we'll perfect it all in the very end. For now, the next step is the headlights, and I've got a little upgrade for them as well. These are the original headlights, and these are actually glass, but a little upgrade. Which way did these go? That way? That way. A little upgrade for these, and I don't know if I'm going to prefer the see-through ones or if I'm going to prefer the ones that I bought for it. Let me show you. In this box should be 2 amber or orange indicators, and I'm going to have to kind of have a little vote in the comments as to which are going to look better. I quite like the amber, I think. You prefer the
Yeah, I feel
clear?
like they look better with silver.
What I don't like about them, look, is you've got an amber bulb in the middle of a clear lens. So I'm going to quickly switch these over, and I think to switch them over it is as simple as, there we go. Look at all the mould in there. That's nasty. So we need to transfer that plug. Oh, that's not, oh it is, it's just all rubbed off. Transfer that plug to there, and then this should, is this the right side? Yes, that should, I've got so confused there, into its place. I think they just look a little bit more old school. No? Have I got... Oh, that's why it didn't look right. Do you not think? You're not a fan of them, are you? I don't know. That's not fully in, but... What do you think? Do you think the clear
It
one?
looks like a down, like that's how it came standard, and then the clear's the upgrade.
Like I've demodified?
Yeah.
Did they come standard like that?
I mean, as long as you like them.
Hold on. Let's do a little comparison.
I'm pretty 50-50 on this decision, and I want to know what you guys think in the comments of whether you prefer the orange side lights or the see-through ones. But as I was installing one of the orange ones to compare, the car made its own mind up.
Like if I line these two square bits up, you see how much longer that bottom one is. Right hand as well, that's definitely the right side. Maybe through, no, they can't be for an E36. Yeah, look, no way. That just don't fit right. It's a complete wrong shape for the wing. Unless there's a difference in M Sport and... Yeah, they just don't fit. See how that one fits in that hole there? And it actually...
Oh yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They just don't... Let me check the app. 2 front indicator lamp amber lens for BMW E36 3 Series 4D. What does 4D mean?
4-door? They do one. What a shame.
Why in the world would the headlights change from 4-door? What difference does that make whether the car is a 4-door or a 3-door?
Could it be the wing?
Yeah, maybe the wings are short. No, because you'd think it was the back portion that would be... Clearly there is a difference, to answer my question, and I have 100% ordered the wrong ones, so that's on me. If only I just read the advertisement instead of, oh, I want them, buy. That is properly my problem. You know what, I think I am right. I think the car's made its own decision. I don't think I want the orange. The side indicators aren't orange, and I kind of do feel now. I ordered them thinking, yeah, they're going to look great, but now I'm genuinely thinking, does it look like it's demodified putting the orange ones on? Does that look a little bit older? Because I feel like newer is clear. Yeah, I'm going to keep with the clear ones. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to order some new clear ones because I feel like they just look a bit aged.
Well, I guess some things happen for a reason, but either way, I've got to reinstall these headlights, and I'm glad I did stick with the clear decision because I do think they look a little bit nicer. To reinstall these headlights, there's 4 bolts holding them into the car. One on the top, the other on the right hand side, and then the 2 down behind the headlight. These are a little bit awkward to reinstall because every time you tried to get them on, the bolt would fall out of the socket. So after a little bit of wiggling, I managed to get them on and the headlights stayed in. And now the car's actually coming back together. But before I carry on, I'm just going to test and make sure all of the lights work and I've plugged them all in properly. And of course, I ran into an issue.
So everything worked but the right indicator?
Turns out that it was one of the most common issues, and that's the owner. So once I'd actually plugged it in, it of course then started working.
Now, the next one, a few of you might have already been able to guess it, but if we look around this car, sorry about the rain, there's actually no chrome trims at all. The only bit of chrome on this car are the alloys, and I have got them done. There's no chrome trim around the doors, there's no chrome trim around the handles, there is no chrome trim whatsoever, so it kind of doesn't make sense to have chrome grills. So I have bought these. What's in this box should be 2 lovely gloss black grills, and they simply replace them ones. I know a lot of people are going to go, oh, you're getting rid of the OEM style of the car, but there's nothing, again, gloss that matches them. So let's get them ones out and replace them with these.
Unlike the rest of this BMW, these again are pretty easy to remove. They simply just pull out. They're only held in by a few plastic clips, and once I've got them both out, I can then just clip the black shiny new ones in their place. And that is them installed, and me personally, I think they look a lot better. And the last job of the top half of this bumper is to refit that plastic shroud that clips into the intake, and that is the grills fully installed.
Right, that's that on. Now, apart from the spoiler, I think we're on to the last job, which of course is that front bumper. And then we've pretty much got a full car again, which I haven't seen this car as a full car for a very, well, what seems a very long time. I just wish I'd done that spoiler properly, because that's going to properly top this off. Right, time for the bumper.
The front bumper is even easier than the rear. All I've got to do is align it with the 4 threads, and then the left and right hand side of the bumper literally slide into an insert and lock into place. I'm not sure why all bumpers don't have this design, because I'm seriously impressed.
Yes! That looks so good. That looks so good. Oh man, I cannot wait to drive this. I just can't wait to get behind the wheel and get a proper feel for it. That looks awesome. There we go. It's back together. Can't believe it. I just want to drive it. As you can see, we've still got a pretty decent way to go. The front suspension has kept its kind of rigidity. You can see by the rear suspension that's pretty much collapsed, so we've got a load of things to do before we can actually drive this car on the road. But one thing that has been finished is the spoiler. Again, shout out to Custom Paintworks in Derby. They have done a much better job than what I had done, but this is ready to go on. We've had the top blade painted and also the bottom blade, so I've got to attach this bit to that bit and then attach the whole thing to the car, and that is the BMW going to be back together, hopefully for the last time. Hopefully it should never need to be stripped as much as it was. Right, let's get this on.
I'm now onto the last job. I'm fitting the 4 bolts holding the lower part of the spoiler to the middle section, then I can bolt the spoiler to the boot lid as one complete unit.
There we go, look how good that looks. Finally, we've got it all done. Now technically, it's not 100% finished because, of course, we've got the welding to get sorted. Obviously, a body shop is going to be doing that, and I know a lot of people are saying the welds aren't pretty, and I agree, but they are solid, and it's just going to mean the body shop's going to have a little bit more work to do. But The sills are now solid. I can jack up on them absolutely fine. The only thing left to do is, of course, put the side skirts on, but there's no kind of point doing that until it's all painted and all sorted out. So for now, this car is back together.
Now we've got all the parts ready to go on, it's time to get the car up on the ramp ready to remove all the old components. This might not be fun.
Now, all of this suspension and everything that's got to come off, at least hasn't been off in, I think, getting on 8 years now. So, I think we're going to have quite a bit of fun trying to do all these jobs to get it back on the road, but we're invested now, and I'm determined.
And now the wheels are off, it's time to take a closer look at exactly what we've got ourselves in for.
Okay, I think we're better to tackle the front first. Now, all of this, of course, has been on the car for a very long time. This car is getting on 30 years old, so we're going to come across a few stuck bolts, aren't we? It's just part of the game, unfortunately. It's an old car, but once it's done, it'll be done and we won't need to worry about it again. But we've got all of this suspension to go on the front because it's all in pretty bad condition that's already on the car. We've got the calipers to change, we've got the brake discs, brake pads to change, rear shocks. We've got a lot to do to get it back on the road. So let's start with trying to get the front calipers off. These bolts don't look happy.
Before I get started, I just want to give Will a massive thank you for his time, effort and the ramp. Without all of those, I would have never been able to get all of these jobs done on this car. First, we're trying to remove the caliper. The 2 bolts holding the caliper to the carrier are covered, so they came out just fine. Now we're onto the bolts that hold the caliper carrier to the hub. These have been sat around for a very long time, and I'm just hoping that they don't round off.
Yes.
So far, so good, but now we're onto a bolt that I'm 100% sure is going to round off, and that is the bolt / screw that's holding the brake disc onto the actual hub itself. And with everything we're taking off, you can see bit by bit the result of leaving a car untouched for years upon years. But now I've got to try and undo the brake line from the caliper, and I really hope that this one doesn't snap because I didn't order any spares.
It's gone. It's gone.
Luckily, we managed to remove that caliper. Each and every bolt on this car could easily turn into a 3-hour job just trying to remove them, so it's better we take our time instead of rushing and rounding them off. Now I'm removing the brake dust shields. Although these serve a purpose, these aren't mandatory for an MOT, so I'm leaving them off. And of course for these, the grinder had to make an appearance.
Well, we're looking a bit more like a car instead of the Titanic wreckage.
With all that out the way, it's time to start stripping down all of the suspension components. The track rod ends, the lower ball joints, strut links, all have to come off, and I think we're going to need a little bit of help from fire.
Okay, final job on this side is taking the track rod end off, and on the new parts we've got the whole track rod. So we're taking it off from the joint to the steering rack, and we're just trying to find a spanner that's big enough. But this side, apart from the lower ball joint bolt that's stuck in the bottom of the hub, this side's actually been not bad, has it? Well, to say how old the car is, most of the bolts have come out pretty nicely. In fact, yeah, pretty much all of them have come out nicely. These struts / shocks should be okay. We have got a few upgrades for them in another video, But yeah, so far so good, would you say? Yeah, so I think so far so good, but well, as long as these come off, and then we can move on to the other side, get the back stripped, and then tomorrow we'll be coming back and hopefully getting stuff put back on. But you found this fan, mate.
Because the main nut on this track rod end is covered by a dust cover, Will can now loosen it pretty easily and then remove it. And that's that side stripped.
We need that. We need that. But that is the old one off. It's a bit naff as well, so it's probably a good job we are changing that. But yeah, that's that side done. Just got to do it again now.
Technically, the passenger side that we've just done should be a lot worse than the driver's side because it's closest to the curb. It collects more dust, more debris and more road salt, but because this car hasn't been on the road, both sides are as bad as each other, so we're just going to do exactly the same on the driver's side as we did on the other side, using heat, hammers, patience, and a grinder. The last two jobs on the driver's side are to remove the track rod end and then try and disconnect that brake line from the brake caliper, which was putting up a serious fight.
Yes! There we go, the front is fully stripped. Now, we haven't took these front shock absorbers off. They are very, very crusty, and I'm assuming they might just get advised for how they look. But the main thing is they're not leaking, and in the next video, we've got some proper modifications going on this car, so it just don't make sense to spend like 200 quid on front shocks when these should pass, if not be advised. So they're staying in for now. They are really, really battered, but that's everything stripped off the front end. The calipers are off, and well, here's all the here's all the mess. The only thing we've got to do is take off this nut here and transfer this little bracket over to the nice, shiny, fresh new ones, because they bolt in to them holes there. So that's the only job left to do, but we're going to strip the backs before we start reinstalling anything at front. You can kind of see how aged these have gone. But yeah, I thought that'd be a lot worse, if I'm honest. I thought we'd have a lot of trouble with most of the bolts on the front end, but so far so good. Right, the backs. Over here, the reason I've got rear shock absorbers to go on is because these have pretty much collapsed. You can see them when the car is on the floor. The back just sits really low and the front kind of supports itself. We've got new shocks to go on. We don't need new springs because these look fairly new. I say new, obviously it's been sat for 7 years, but I'm assuming that before it sat, someone swapped them springs. We've got new discs and new pads with new calipers to go on as well. And I think that is everything for the back. So I'm hoping all of this comes off nicely and isn't a pain. Let's get to work.
So let's get the rear stripped. I'm doing the driver's side while Will is doing the passenger side. I'm starting by unbolting the caliper from the carrier, then I can take off the bolt for the shock absorber. Now I can take off the caliper carrier and the brake disc.
Last job on the rear is to unbolt the shock absorbers both sides from the inside, and then we've got the 14mm bolt holding in the brake lines. So first job, I'm going to do the inside of the boot.
And now that shock absorber is out, it's left us with one last job to do and one last bolt to take off, which is the bolt connecting the brake line to the caliper. These have been the toughest of all them so far, so I'm hoping that this last one comes loose.
Yes, it's gone. Yes! I genuinely thought today would be just a day of rounded bolts, stressing out and just trying to get bolts off all day. it's been quite successful, hasn't it? She's been good to me. She's been very good to me. That's it. That's the strip down complete.
With everything pretty much stripped down, I think it makes sense to tidy up and repaint a few parts. So I'm painting the caliper carriers front and back, and also going underneath the car and wire wheeling where things have started to look a little bit aged. Doing this should make the car just look that little bit nicer underneath.
We are now ready to start fitting everything back to the car, and again, thanks to eBay, I know that all of these parts are going to fit nice and snug. We've pushed the new bearings into the new what was it called? Lollipops. We've put the new bearings in the new lollipops. We've got all the calipers ready to go on, so all we've got to do is rebuild it all and put it back together. Should we start with the fronts or back, Will? Start with the fronts.
The front should now be pretty easy to put back together as we aren't having to deal with extremely tight bolts. I'm refitting the wishbone, then we can fit the track rod end, then the drop links, and all of that bolts to the hub, so I'm refitting that as well. Also, if you're still watching this video and you're enjoying it so far, then hit that subscribe button down below as it helps me out massively.
Apart from calipers and discs, everything this side is on. We're just waiting for these little brackets to arrive. These should arrive tomorrow because they ended up snapping from the bolt, so it was just all spinning. But on the passenger side, we're not fully bolted down yet. We're going to get everything in place and then tighten everything up. But now we're on to the driver's side, and I'm not going to bore you with any more suspension work on the front because you've seen us do it on that side. So it should be done in 3, 2, 1. There we go. This side is all on. Everything is tight except the track rod ends because we're going to try and align it the best we can before we take it to the MOT. But everything this side is tight. Now we're on to putting the brakes on. So we have brand new front brake pads in here, and we have brand new brake discs in here. I don't know if these are the fronts or if these are the backs. These might be the backs because they look a little bit smaller, but yeah, I think disc on, then caliper carrier on, which I've sprayed outside, caliper on, and then discs and pads. It's coming together now. I'm just excited to drive it, but yeah, we'll get all the front done and then we can move on to doing the back. The back should be even easier than the front because it's just the rear shock and then caliper, pads and discs. But yeah, it's getting exciting now.
So like I said, on go the front discs, then I can refit the 2 bolts for the caliper carrier, and you guessed it, next is the caliper, not forgetting the brake pads. And once I've refitted the brake line, that's the left side finished. Now I can do the exact same thing for the right side. Now we're onto the rear. In goes the shock absorber, then the brake disc, followed by the caliper carrier, and of course the caliper with the brake pads. And the last job is the brake line. I've done the driver's side while Will is doing the other side, and once we're finished, that's almost the rebuild complete.
Right, okay, last job. They have arrived. These are the little brackets that we couldn't transfer over from the other wishbone. So what happens is this goes into that, and then this bolts up through the lower wishbone down here, and this should be the last job. So that bolts up into the wishbone, and that somehow goes in there into the anti-roll bar, and Bob's your uncle. But that's it. We just need to tighten everything down, bleed the brakes, book it in for its MOT, I think. Oh, wheel arches as well. But
this is it, the final job before I can actually drive this car on the road after all of those years. We're going to use a brake pressure bleeder to bleed all of the calipers, and once that job's complete, it's time to put the wheels back on and let the car back down to the floor.
The BMW is back on the floor once and for all. Now, I can't drive it yet, and I was about to take it for the MOT, but we've got a little problem. So, obviously the battery keeps dying, and I have actually found out why. If I just plug the jump pack in, for some reason, and I've found the reason, it's doing this. If I turn the ignition on, As you can see, no one's in the car and the brake lights are just constantly on. That's why the battery keeps dying. So, I think I found the problem. If you have a look under here, this here is something called a brake light switch. And in fact, I can actually unplug it. Now, what this is meant to do is it sits where the brake pedal is, and when the pedal is not applied, there will be pressure on this switch here. In fact, I think I've just fixed it. I think I've actually just fixed it. I think that's actually just fixed itself. It was just stuck.
Is it not going to get...
So that's what it's meant to do, which it is now doing, and it was just stuck on. Hold on, wait, that might have just fixed itself. Right, let me get this back in, and I'll see if that actually works. Right, if I turn this on now, the brake light's on. Are they working?
Yeah.
What, both perfectly? There we go. We have no longer got an issue. That was the issue, and I'd already actually ordered a brake light switch and we couldn't get it until tomorrow, but for some reason it was just jammed. So for now, I think that is actually ready for its MOT, and fingers crossed it passes, but we won't be able to do that now until tomorrow because we've missed the slot. So cut until tomorrow where we're driving this for the first time.
The last time this car was driven on the road was on the 27th of October 2017. That was over 2,850 days ago, and now for the first time since, I'm going to drive it once again, but it wasn't for long.
Oh, I hope it passes. I mean, we've pretty much changed every bush, every arm, every link, like pretty much everything that had gone bad, so it should pass, to be honest. I don't see why it wouldn't. We obviously need an alignment, but with what I've got planned, there's kind of no point aligning it in its current state. But we've got the sunroof open and we're back on the road, man. This is mental. This is mental. We've got 15 minutes until we get to the MOT station, and then we'll drop it off and keep our fingers crossed. But I'll let it get to temperature. Hopefully it stays at temperature. I don't even know if the reason this car got parked up was a head gasket issue or something like that. I guess we're about to find out, but I'll let it get up to temperature. I think it'd be a little bit rude not to do a first pull in the abandoned E36. As if it's back on the road after all that, man.
And I'm not sure how long the car had been doing it, but after I did the first pull, I noticed something that was definitely going to stop us in our tracks.
Here we go, first pull, second gear. Oh no, we're overheating. We're overheating bad. We're in the red. No! No. We're overheating. Oh, and I'm on the main road. This is really bad.
The coolant temperature needle was all the way to the red, giving me a warning on the dashboard, so I had no option but to simply turn the car off in the middle of the road. This was bad. To make things worse, the car completely died after I turned it off because the battery was so weak, but I had no other option. And to make things even better, the police had just turned up and this car has no MOT and it's not taxed. The police were amazing and just wanted to make sure that everyone was safe and helped to guide the traffic until the car had cooled down. Luckily, I managed to jump start the car again and drive back to Reg Plate King, but on the way it overheated again. At least I know that all the parts that we've spent fitting in this video from eBay fit perfectly and have gave us that next step in getting this car back on the road. But it looks like there's a few more things that are gonna need fixing.
Everything that could have gone wrong has just gone wrong. Unfortunately, for some reason, the car's overheating. The police ended up coming and blocking the road. Shout out to them, actually, they were really sound. And yeah, for some reason the car just keeps overheating. I don't know why.
Something is definitely not right with this car, whether it's a sensor, the thermostat, the radiator, I'm not entirely sure, but at the moment I can't actually find any coolant leaks, so I'm a little bit confused. At this point, I'm about 5 minutes away from Reg Plate King, so I've just got to wait for the car to cool down and just hope that it doesn't go bang on the way back.
All of that work, man. But this is one of the things, isn't it? It's not been driven in 7 years. I'm the one that's going to be like the test dummy to see whether it's going to make it or not. But I don't even feel hot. I wonder if it's just a sensor. I think it might just be a sensor, but I'll just let the needle drop again and yeah, we'll take it back.
And on the way back, of course, the car overheated and ended up boiling the coolant out of the top of the radiator.
For some reason, it's overheating, and at the moment, I don't know why. I don't know if it's something thermostat, I don't know if it's coolant temp sensor, I don't know if it's any other sensor. There's definitely coolant in it, I think. There's pressure in it. But, yeah, maybe, I think the most obvious thing to just try and do is bleed it again. I think when I originally bled the coolant and did a flush, I don't think I had the heaters on, so maybe we've just got a massive airlock somewhere in the cooling system that needs to come out. So I think that might be the first port of call. I definitely didn't use this little bleed valve here. I definitely did not use that. I just kind of left the cap off, let it get up to temperature, and then hope for the best. So I think we should do that.
This time I've got to bleed the coolant system properly, so I'm putting the heaters on max and the blowers on full power. Then I can crack open the bleed screw and wait for any trapped air to escape and hope that this works, and already the needle has started to move.
Well, it's just starting to get up to temperature, but there's no heat at all coming through those air vents. None at all. It's meant to be on 32. And it's still ice cold. I wonder if it's the thermostat.
Then I noticed a bit of coolant come out of the bleed screw, which could be all we need to get the car back at temperature.
It's currently at temperature. They're like not hot, but they're kind of warm. I think I'm just going to take it for another drive and just see what it does. Maybe that's worked, maybe it hasn't. But at the moment it's staying at temperature and it's not overheating, so yeah, let's give it a go.
All I can do now is try again and hope that it's let enough of that trapped air escape.
Right, we're currently still at temperature. The lights on the dashboard are still on, but I think once we start driving it, they might go off. I think it's just because the battery is so low and the only thing keeping it alive at the minute is the alternator. So when there's charge back in the battery, I've got a feeling they might go off. So let's give it a go. As long as it doesn't overheat, I should be able to make it to the MOT station, but let's give it a go. Please don't overheat.
And after driving it again for a few minutes, I started to get a little bit hopeful that I might have solved this problem.
Well, so far so good. It's not overheating.
So I decided to carry on driving to the MOT station. The only issue is the last time I drove the car when it overheated, I didn't actually realise at the exact point where it started to go over the temperature. So I'm just going to keep driving and keep my fingers crossed.
Seems okay so far. It's definitely not overheating, it's just sat bang on in the middle. Have we got heat through the... Still no heat through the vents.
If the car's not overheating but there's no hot air coming through the air vents, this would normally mean that there's still trapped air in the coolant system, or there's a problem with the heater matrix itself. Maybe it's blocked, but then it all went wrong.
Oh, it's creeping up. Oh. Yeah, we're about to overheat again. It's at the top quarter. Yeah, it's... Oh. Yeah, we're overheating again. Right. It must be the thermostat. It has to be the thermostat. Yeah, we're about to go into the red. And the lights on the dashboard haven't gone for some reason.
Although I wanted to get this car back on the road and being enjoyed again, it's clear that some things are not meant to be, and there's still some issues that need addressing with this car. Unfortunate, but I guess this is part of the game.
Overheating again. Look. We're in the red again, we're overheating, and there's still no heat coming from these vents. It has to be the thermostat. It has to be, because for there not to be hot air coming through the vents, it means that the coolant isn't getting through to the heater matrix, which allows the hot air to come into the cabin. That's what my guess is. And the lights on the dashboard haven't yet disappeared, so they're either definitely problems or the car just needs a new battery again. So close. I want to find out if there's actually pressure. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, there's definitely pressure in that. You can hear it. Yeah, I'm not going to touch that. I think that's definitely overheating. Yeah, it's literally bubbling. You know what, I'm going to close the bonnet before that explodes. Right, let's get this car back on the road once and for all. The first problem I need to take care of is this engine is currently overheating, and that's no good for nobody. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the thermostat. It's just bubbling over this side of the cooling system and it's not cooling down the engine. I think the thermostat is stuck closed. Now, on these cars, the thermostat is right down here in between the viscous fan and the engine. So we've got to do a little bit of work to get to that thermostat. We've got to take the housing off, then replace that thermostat. But to get to it all, we need to remove this viscous fan. So all of these plastic shroudings got to come off, the fan's got to come off. So we've got a 32mm spanner, and yeah, hopefully it comes off nice, because I'm guaranteeing this has never been changed. So let's see what we can do.
First job is to remove this plastic piece. Not only does this cover the top of the radiator, but it also doubles up as an air intake. It feeds cold air into the airbox. Now that's out the way, I can attempt to remove the viscous fan. For this, I need a 32mm spanner to loosen it, but at the same time, I've got to jam a pry bar between the bolts for the water pump pulley to stop it from spinning.
Got it.
Now I can unscrew it from the water pump pulley, and you've probably already noticed that I'm actually unscrewing this by tightening it. That's because these are reverse threaded.
There we go. Look at that. That is disgusting. Right, that should now give us better access to the thermostat. Does this fully come off? Yes, it does. Here we go, we're getting somewhere.
Now that's out the way, I've got way better access to that thermostat housing, which is held in by 4 bolts, 3 10mm and 1 40mm, and once that's loose, that should reveal the thermostat behind it.
Yeah, there's no coolant at all coming out of that.
Although on the outside that thermostat did look fine, inside them they have a wax-filled element that expands and contracts with temperature changes to the control valve. So although it looks fine, it could have easily failed internally. So now I'm going to replace it with the brand new one, and of course replace that O-ring. Put that back in place. Now I can get the thermostat housing back in place and secure it with them 4 bolts.
Okay, that's the thermostat all swapped over. Brand new thermostat is inside of the housing, and the reason I'm now convinced that it is the thermostat stuck shut is because when I took the thermostat out, there was literally no coolant come out of the engine block at all. So I think I can bleed it without the viscous fan being back on. So before I carry on, in case this does leak or anything like that, I'm going to put the viscous fan on once I know that it's doing what it should be. So let's bleed it.
For these cars, there's a correct bleeding procedure that I'll find out a little bit later. For now, I just thought it was like any other car, so I just filled up the radiator, ran the car up to temperature in hopes that any air would find its way up and out of the rad cap. And once I've done that, it's time to test if it was the thermostat actually stuck closed.
We're at temperature and we're staying at temperature. The blowers, I won't call them hot, would you?
No.
I wouldn't call them hot, but as far as I know, this is how you bleed one of these cars. So let's just see if it overheats again. Let's just try it.
So I went and tested it again, and yes, even if you don't have a valid MOT certificate or road tax, you can still drive a car on the road as long as you have a pre-booked MOT appointment. So I booked it in for an MOT and took it for a test drive.
Yeah, these wheels and tyres are way too big for this car. Yeah, we're overheating again. We're overheating again.
And because I'd had the car running up to temperature, this time it didn't even make it off the industrial estate.
Yeah, look, it's starting to overheat again. As soon as you drive it, it starts overheating. I don't get why. Oh, that's the warning for the lights. Still overheating. Now, we've got a few options. I'm going to let the car cool down and then I'm going to take the thermostat out again, or I think I'm going to take out a few of the hose pipes and run pressured water through them to see if there's a big kind of clump of dirt or anything that's stopping the coolant getting into the engine side, because the engine's got no coolant in it and the matrix, which is inside the car, they're not getting hot either, so there's something definitely wrong. If not, then it could just be the water pump, which they're not the end of the world on these cars. They're right down here at the front and they pretty much bolt to that viscous fan. So for now, I've just got to let the car cool down and then we'll run some water through it and see if anything comes out.
So while I'm letting the car cool down, I might as well move on to repairing one of the other things that has gone wrong with this car. I thought it was repaired in the last video, but the problem has come back, and that is the brake lights staying on.
If I turn the ignition on, as you can see, these brake lights are just constantly on and no one's pressing the pedal, no one's pushing the brake pedal, and they're just constantly on. So you'd have probably seen in the last video, I thought I'd fixed the brake light switch, but it clearly isn't. So we've got a solution, and that is this. This is a brand new brake light switch, and this is going to replace the old one, which I'm pretty sure is just broken, and these are kind of pressurized, so when the brake pedal is pushed down, this is released, and when it's released, that puts the lights on, and when it's pressured, it turns them off. So we've got to take out the old one and replace it with the new one.
Let's get this repair taken care of. To get access to the brake light switch, there's a panel in the driver's footwell. That needs to be removed. So after I've taken it out with the 3 screws holding it in place, I can get the old switch out and the new one in and just hope that this solves the problem. If it doesn't, it could be a wiring issue that might take me ages to find. So again, I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Right, new switch is in. Let's see if it's worked. I think it has. The lights aren't on, let me know if they come on.
Yeah.
Yeah? They're working good. Right, sorted. That's one job we can tick off the list for the MOT. Right, let me put all this back together. Okay, the coolant is now cooled down and it's time to try and flush anything that might be in the engine or matrix out. So I'm going to take the thermostat housing off again, remove the thermostat, and then we'll push the car outside and run some water through.
So I'm removing the thermostat housing and also the thermostat, and what I want to find out is if the cooling system has any unwanted blockages inside. If it does, that could be stopping the coolant from making its complete cycle. So we're putting water through every possible pipe in hopes that it comes back out of all of the coolant hoses. We even took off the heater core hose and fed water through that, and it seems like nothing at all is blocked. Every time we put water in, it's coming out as clear as it went in, so it looks like the cooling system is absolutely fine.
Okay, we've got a little bit of a verdict. So we've flushed the hose through the top of the radiator. That then goes down to this coolant pipe down here. It goes back into the engine, around the engine, and it comes out of where the thermostat would be. So what would happen is the coolant gets to a certain temperature, that thermostat opens, allows it to come out into this hose that goes down into there, it gets cooled through the radiator and repeats the cycle. Now, we knew that was kind of working, so we've took the thermostat out and we've ran the hose through here and it comes out back through where the thermostat would be. We've done it the opposite way. We've pretty much tried every single variation of where coolant would pass around this engine bay / cooling system. We even back here took the coolant pipes off the heater core and ran water through that as well, and it did the exact same. It came out where the thermostat would be. So we know that there's no blockages or anything stopping the coolant making its rounds. There's only two things left that it could be. One is the water pump and the other is this valve down here. This is the heater control valve. Now, I'm not sure how common they are to fail in, so I think it would be a little bit stupid to not do a water pump anyway. So that's the first thing I'm going to try. That as well, if you look at this belt down here, that belt has definitely seen better days. So that's got to be replaced anyway, so the belt's got to come off. So, next stop is that water pump.
Okay, let's get this water pump out. First, I need to take off the drive belt. To get it off, I'm just going to undo the bolts for the water pump pulley and take them both off at the same time. Now it's time to remove the water pump itself, so I'm taking out the 4 bolts holding it to the engine block, and to separate it from the block I'm screwing 2 10mm bolts in either side of the water pump to push it away from the engine, and eventually it comes out.
Well, that's the old water pump off, and there's no real telltale signs as to if that's bad or not. I guess the only way to find out is to install the new one and see if we can bleed it up properly. We could still be not bleeding the cooling system up properly, but at least we've put a new water pump on it, and I'm pretty sure, unless someone's bought an OEM one, this is the original one. It is definitely a BMW part, and the outside kind of matches the age of the engine block. So let's get the new one in.
Getting the new one in is of course the reverse way of taking it out, so I'm refitting the 4 bolts for the pump itself, and then I can fit the other 4 bolts for the pulley, and as easy as that, that's the water pump changed. Now I'm on to getting the brand new belt installed, but to do this I've got to take off the AC belt, so once that's out of the way I can install the new belt, then refit the AC belt, and that is the job complete. Let's just hope it works.
Right, the belts are back on, the new water pump is in, but we found a little bit of an issue that I think could correspond to why it's overheating. If you look at the thermostat housing in the middle, I don't know how well that comes across in camera, it's like all broken off in the middle. So obviously the seal isn't going to seal properly. We can't get a thermostat housing until tomorrow. So just to see if that water pump has worked, we're going to just put a bit of sealant over where this has broken, put it all back together and try and bleed the car with water and see if that works. If it does, then we know that we can go and grab the new thermostat housing, put it all back together, and everyone is happy and the car is working properly. So that's the plan. Let's put some sealant on it.
We could wait until tomorrow for the new housing, but there's no fun in that for anyone. So for the sake of finding out if it's worked, we're using some silicone to fill in that gap, and I can reinstall the thermostat and the thermostat housing. Now we can top up the coolant and repeat the bleeding procedure and just hope that this has worked. And it wasn't long until we found out.
And as per usual, it's overeating. And there's no hot air coming out them vents. So weird, that, innit? Like, that's so bizarre. What else can that even be?
But then we realised that the entire time I could have been bleeding the coolant system completely wrong. On these cars, it isn't just a matter of topping up the coolant and running them up to temperature. You have to top the radiator tank up bit by bit and leave the bleed screw undone until the level stays the exact same. Then tighten the radiator cap and leave the car to get up to temperature, and eventually what should happen is air and coolant should start coming out of that bleed screw, and once it's a continuous flow of coolant with no bubbles, that should be the car bled correctly and the heaters should start blowing hot. And eventually it actually worked. The car actually got to operating temperature and even dropped.
It's gone back down.
It's red hot, that.
They're red hot now.
I guess all this time it was just an airlock in the system because I didn't know how to actually bleed this car properly. I didn't need to replace all of them parts, but at least now it's brand new and I know that they've been sorted and I don't have to worry about them in the future.
Okay, so we've figured out how to actually bleed the cooling system properly, and the heaters are now blowing hot and the car is staying at temperature, which is good. It turns out I probably didn't need a water pump and I probably didn't need a thermostat, but it's something that's done now and it doesn't cost a lot of money to do on these cars. So now we've got to drain all the coolant because the new thermostat housing has arrived. So at least now we know how to actually bleed it. So I'm going to take the old one off, put the new one on, and then we're on to the last final little bits before we can actually take it on the road.
So once again, I'm going to take the thermostat housing off. This time disconnecting it from the two radiator hoses, and then I can replace it with the new one. Now I can get the new one back in position and then I can start actually bleeding this car up properly with proper coolant.
Here we go, moment of truth. Heaters on the maximum heat and the fan on the lowest setting is what these apparently like. Right, let's wait for it to bleed.
So now that the radiator cap is closed and fully tight, I can undo that little bleed screw and just wait bit by bit for it to bleed out through that little nipple. Then once I can see continuous flow of coolant, I can then shut it off, let the car continue to idle, and then a little bit later I can undo that bleed screw and let that excess air out. And that should be the cooling system bled.
Okay, I think we're good. I've got heat coming through the vents. It's staying at temperature, it's not overheating. So what I'm going to do is leave it to idle for a little bit longer, let it properly circulate and build up enough pressure, and then let it cool down a little bit, undo that bleed screw, and hopefully a little bit of air should release. Then I can tighten it and that should be the cooling system bled completely, and then it shouldn't overheat. But it's getting exciting now. I've just got these lights to take care of. Why they've come up I don't know, but I've got to figure them out. So once this is bled we can crack on with them. I'm getting excited. Right, it's been about 20 minutes. Let's let a little bit of air out, and that is what you want to see when it's just flowing with coolant, and that is the cooling system properly bled.
I was really starting to think that it could have been the head gasket, and maybe that would have been the reason that this car was stopped being used. But luckily it's all bled up properly and it's staying at temperature. Hopefully when I drive it again it doesn't overheat, but for now I can reinstall that viscous fan, remembering to tighten it anti-clockwise, and then refit the plastic surround, and of course that plastic shroud for the air intake.
That is now everything engine side all complete. Now we're on to the faults on the dashboard, which I have no idea why these have randomly just came up after driving it for the first time, but it's something that we've got to sort. So we have got a traction control light, an ABS light, and also an airbag light. I think the best thing to do is plug this car into the diagnostics and actually see what it is saying, see if it can tell me which corner maybe the ABS sensor's gone wrong or which airbag is throwing up the light. So I'm going to plug this car in and actually read what it is telling me. But with this car being a 1998, they don't actually have normal OBD ports to actually plug these cars in and scan them. it is under here, which is pretty cool. So luckily I have got the adapter and I can plug it in and actually see what's going on.
Instead of a normal OBD2 port, this car has a 20-pin socket that luckily I have the connector for. So I'm going to connect it to the car and scan it through the diagnostic tool. Hopefully this tells me why the airbag light's on and maybe which corner the ABS has gone wrong.
What have we got? Engine system, fuel trim, bank 1, signal sensor, coolant temperature sensor. Hold on, let's read this. Is these current? Status. Airbag, here we go. We have just got, yeah, just airbag fault stored. So if I clear all of these, maybe that is simply because the seats were out when I did the interior. So that may just have needed clearing, as it just told me that that is a stored fault. That might be that one fixed, but we still have this ABS sensor and the traction control light, which unfortunately nothing is actually coming up on the ABS. Well, I don't think this car has actually got a control module for the ABS. I'm not sure how it works, because obviously it's got some sort of electronics because it's on the dashboard, but on here unfortunately it cannot pick it up. So we've got to do a little bit of digging, and I think it makes sense to start with the front two.
So I'm getting the front passenger side wheel off. The reason I think it could be the fronts that have gone wrong is because in the last video we had all the suspension components off at the front. So maybe with us using the blowtorch to unseize some of them bolts, the ABS sensor might have got damaged. So let's find out. The passenger side seemed absolutely fine. All the wires were intact, nothing seemed damaged, but of course it could be something internally. So I'm going to move to the driver's side and just see if I can find anything obvious, which once I got the wheel off, it was pretty easy to find.
Well, I found the issue. It's quite obvious as well. Oh, it's snapped. Oh, it's the ABS sensor's snapped. Oh, okay, that's all right. I thought it was something a bit more
sinister.
Like, yeah, sinister. Like we're gonna have to search for ages for it.
Need some wiring.
The ABS sensor's snapped. Okay, right. I'm going to order an ABS sensor and we can get this one out.
I can only assume that maybe when I'd routed the ABS sensor, I might have done it incorrectly. So when I took it for that first drive, once I've turned a corner, it might have snagged it and completely snapped the wiring. I guess we'll never know. But what I do know is this one needs to come out. And of course, with this being so old, the ABS sensor is seized into the hub. So I've got to try my best to remove it.
Yes. Finally.
That put up a little bit of a fight, but now it's off. I can replace it with the brand new sensor, plug it in, make sure I've routed it properly, and then I'm going to refit the caliper and brake disc. I took these off so it was a lot easier to try and knock that old sensor out. Now we're pretty much on to the last jobs. I can start refitting the air ducts for the brakes, and then I can get the wheel arches back in place. I'm going to do it to the driver's side and of course the passenger side.
That's it. Last job's done. All of the arch liners are back in. This ABS sensor is back on, but we still have the lights on the dashboard. But obviously the car's in the air and it's rear wheel drive, so I can't really get the fronts to turn without it still thinking that there's an issue. So we've just got to put the wheels back on now. Now these are the wheels that I've just taken off, and the problem with these is the offset is way too big for this car. They end up rubbing on the arches and they're just way too wide. So we've got a fix, and that is these. These are just off a, I could not actually tell you what they're off, but I don't know whether I'll keep them. I don't know whether I won't. I don't know if they need to be a bit wider for this car, but they fit for now, so we can take it to get an MOT without it scraping and ruining all the arches. So it's time to get the wheels back on, and then I can actually get it back on the road.
This should be the final job until I can actually get this car through an MOT. Once I start driving it and all of the ABS sensors talk to each other, the lights should clear off the dashboard. At least I hope anyway. But now all four wheels are back on, that is the car complete. And after pulling it out of the unit, the lights went off. Now it's time for its MOT.
This is it, ladies and gentlemen. We are finally taking the car for its MOT. Well, at least I hope. I think it's about 15-20 minutes to the MOT station, and hopefully it passes and we can literally have it back on the road and start enjoying it. I actually can't wait. I mean, there's no knocks or bangs, but everything is completely out of alignment. But I can't align it. Well, I can, but I don't want to align it because in the future we've got loads of upgrades for this car, so it don't make sense to align it now and then have to do it again. But here we go again, back on the road. Okay, we're starting to get to temperature. Hopefully this time it stays at temperature. Do you know what? It actually drives pretty well. You can tell that the wheels are pointing the wrong ways on the back and it needs a proper alignment, but it actually drives all right. There's no knocks, there's no bangs, there's no horrible noises, which I hope it shouldn't be because we've just pretty much replaced everything. But it drives pretty well for how old it is and what it's kind of been through. We're just about to get to temperature. Come on, come on. We're at temperature now. And I'm actually pretty close to where it overheated before, so I'm keeping my eye on this needle and I'm just praying that it doesn't overheat. If it does, I must have just bled it wrong because there's nothing else it can be now. So
this car has had a new thermostat, it's had a new water pump, and as far as I know, the coolant is now bled properly. If it overheats, it could be the worst case scenario and maybe it's going to need a new head gasket. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed and I'm hoping for the best.
Okay, we're at temperature and it's here where it overheated last time. And as of now, we're staying right where it should be. I don't want to keep I don't want to take my eyes off the temperature gauge, but it is literally right here where we broke down and the police came. So far so good.
The car stayed at temperature, it didn't overheat, and it actually drove pretty good considering how long it's been off the road. But we've got one more hurdle to overcome, and that is if it's going to even pass an MOT. So it wasn't long before I arrived.
I can see the MOT station, I can literally see it. I can literally see the MOT station, and we're still at temperature. I think we're good, ladies and gentlemen. I think the coolant is bled properly and we've just got to hope that it passes now. We've just got to hope that it passes.
That is officially the furthest that this car has been driven in nearly 8 years, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's anything that it should fail on.
That's it. We're here. It's done it. It's done it. Yes!
All I can do now is leave it in the hands of the MOT tester, sit back and keep my fingers crossed.
Well, the BMW has been for its MOT and I'm happy to announce that it has finally passed after 7 years of being off the road. It is finally back on the road, and as far as now, it seems pretty good. There's no horrible knocks, there's no horrible bangs. It actually drives pretty good. The alignment is way out. We're going to have to get that sorted at a later date, but so far this car has come such a long way from when I bought it. But now we can actually start to enjoy it
and start with the modifications, because we've got to be at the Nürburgring in just 2 months to test this car out. So we've still got a long way to go, but as of now the car is back on the road after all that time. Where we've had all of the rust repaired, that still needs the bodywork to be done and completed for it to look a lot better, because at the moment it just looks a little bit ropey and a little bit like a shed. We've got the side skirts to go on once that's been done, and we've got loads more things to do. We've got the gearbox oil to change, we've got the diff oil to change, and then we can start actually modifying it. I'm not 100% sure on the wheels. I think they might look a little bit too modern for the car. Let me know what you think. Maybe it needs lowering and they need spacing out a bit. I'm not 100% sure on them. But what I am sure on is this car is back on the road.